All right, there we go. Greetings, everybody. How you doing? I hope you're doing well. I started a few minutes late because, as is the way of all things, I had checked the cameras, I had checked everything was running, all things were good and proper and right in the world an hour before the stream. And then 5 minutes before the stream, I go and check and everything's crashed. The cameras are working, reboot, everything seems to come up and then they stop. So there is a non-zero chance, that this stream may fail spectacularly at any moment because I don't know why the cameras stopped working earlier. But hey, you know what? Sure, it's at the end of the week. Exactly. Hello, Strugglebuzz. Hello, friend. It is indeed Friday, and I suppose that means everybody is just not exactly given 100%, which is fair, because neither am I, honestly. This is not 100% of me that you're getting. If I was given a full 100%, I probably would have been on a lot earlier. But I'm not. I'm barely here, as a matter of fact. But that's okay because I went out. I bought some new shoes, which I needed to, and also today's fit is from like 5 years ago, representing my current situation. So there you go. You'll see this one again, I'm sure. And today, not to beat around the bush too much, but we are going to... Why is the top of my head? There we go. Today, if I was giving 100, they'd be cackling from the rooftops. Precisely. And I do have that shirt, but that's not the one we've got on today. But not to beat around the bush any longer, welcome in. Today we are going to be looking at the indie tabletop RPG Gun and Slinger being held up to the camera here and being switched to in a much nicer screen now. Hey, look, that's backwards. I'm a professional. Let's fix that real quick. Here we go. Boop. Done. Magic. I have the technology. I had to reset a few things. But anyway, we've got Gun and Slinger, created by Nevin Holmes. And here's the artwork and layout and such. And as this game is not a dice-based game, but it is still it has a system, a randomization system. I have a set of cards that, if not in theme, at least in color scheme, matches the game. So we'll be using it to demonstrate a few of the game mechanics as we go through it. So let's go ahead and see what Gun and Slinger has to offer us. Now, for those of you new to what's happening here right now, and me here in the corner, losing my religion, I have played this. I have actually run this on Fandible.com for my group. So I am actually familiar with this one as opposed to some of the previous games that we looked at where I was just looking at them for the very first time. That said, I don't think that's going to make this go any faster because I'm going to have thoughts. I have, in fact, as much as I love this game also suffers from the, wait a minute, what the fuck is this defined? What are we talking about? What's going there? There are a few things that were unclear even after I'd run it a couple of times, and I suspect we will run into that as we go through it. That said, it is a unique game with some unique mechanics and a unique setting, all of which is done well, because uniqueness is all fine and good, but if the final end product is not actually done well and fun to play, then you kind of missed the point. This one, I feel, hits the right point. Now, Gun and Slinger might give you some vibes of, cowboys, the Wild West, and there's definitely some of that, but also it's, if anything, a very weird sci fantasy west. So we're gonna go ahead and read the back cover here and get the author's back blurb here. So let's see. Eons ago, the sky shattered and something ate the moon and stars, leaving us with only our sun, small cluster of planets, and a new twisted moon. Something burst from the Sky Eater, fell to our planet, and began to twist and warp it. Many generations later, the remnants of our people wander the twisted land and fight the bioluminescent night-crawling creatures, searching our castles and ruins and... Sorry, what? Oh yeah, sorry. And cities. This font is wild. I get it. It's atmospheric, but it's not great for readability. I'm going to restart that sentence. Many generations later, the remnants of our people wander the twisted land and fight the bioluminescent night-crawling creatures, searching our castles and cities' ruins for ancient magic and technology to help us survive. The brave and hopeful work to keep our pocket-sized towns together and alive. Now, many years after our stars were devoured, you find yourself searching the ruins with your new partner. I hope you find what you're looking for. Now, what the back cover doesn't give away, that when it's talking about you and your partner, it's literally talking. These are your player characters. I mean, not exactly this person, but it's the gun and the slinger. So the big sort of twist, and we'll get to use the word twist a lot while looking at this game, is that one of you plays the slinger and one of you plays the gun. Third person is the GM. The maestro, I believe, is the term that this game uses. Let's see, special thanks. Go ahead and show that right there. And let's actually, so this game is also very, I love the art on this game. So this was one, I've complained in other games about lack of art. In this game, there is no such complaint. This game is lush with all kinds of art. And then once we look at some of the stretch goals here in the back, the variations on the game, I guess this game got during its original kickstart, some even more gorgeous art for those alternate settings. So let's see. We got a solid table of contents. I don't believe we get an index for this one. No, not for this one. Yeah, this is just the Patreon thanks. Yeah, and then after this it's just the actual games. But we do got a decent table of contents. Good enough, detailed. Titles, subtitles, sections. Sections that I appreciate are actually named, for the most part, things that make sense. I think we've already seen a couple where the content names and chapters in White Wolf is very bad at this sometimes, where they'll name the chapter name with like something evocative, like something story-wise, the fight, the battle of the pack, or something like that, and it's like, okay, is that combat? Is that social? Is that setting info? What is that? Here we've got pretty clear table of contents, much appreciated. And just to check out the game design is Gun and Slinger. Here we go. So game design, Nevin Holmes. Layout, Cinta Posadas. Excellent job, Cinta. Editing, Fiona Maeve Geist. Original interior art, Emma Harvey, also excellent job. Cover art, Sadia Bies. Apologies for any mispronouncements. There it is. Beautiful cover art. And character sheets, Will Jobst. So the character sheets are, those are the demonic ones, but they're in the book. You can also print them out, and they're actually pretty. Let me see if I can spot one here real quick. Come on. Aha, here we go. So here we go. So you see they're 3-part character sheets. And they basically just fold into a little booklet. Everything you need for your characters right there. It's still surprising amount of growth and flexibility for both the gun and the slinger here. Yeah, there we go. Despite the relative simplicity of the character sheets, they actually work out, they keep track of everything they need to keep track of. They provide the bulk of the information you need. Pretty well designed. Let's see, catching up with chat real quick. Does this game do a proper term description or linking? It tries. I don't think it does the best job, but I do distinctly remember certain points where it does at least try, which points for that. I'm just setting myself up for the day I actually decide to put out something serious and just commit all these sins myself. Gun and Slinger. Let's read the setting here. So Gun and Slinger. This one's going to be tricky because, boy, real shiny pages. But here we go. Gun and Slinger is an RPG geared for short episodic sessions about a weapon and a wanderer. A maestro and 2 players, Gun and Slinger, set out into a dead planet mutated by a god's forgotten child and hunt strange bounties, investigate the world, and unlock hidden powers. During play, they seek to learn the nature of what's hunting the slinger, figure out why the gun is sentient, and discover how the world died. So, real solid things from the beginning. It's clear on what it's meant for. While there is advancement in this game, and you can do a relatively long-term adventure, it's still meant for, as they say, short episodic sessions. You're generally not going to be playing 4 or 5 hour sessions of this game. There tend to be short, punchy 2-3 hour sessions at most. Each one tends to be self-contained just because of the nature of the game itself. The wanderer wanders in, does something, wanders on their quest because they've got answers to seek, and they're interesting answers because these are interesting characters that we're going to meet. Look at that art. Straight up, we have some discussion on safety tools, like right after the setting and almost before anything else. Oh wait, no, never mind. I did skip. I skipped a page. Okay, but safety tools right after. But now we've got a little bit more setting work. Here we go. And this is again very lovely, very beautiful. Look at this layout and design. Eons ago, the sky shatters. This is mostly what's that's almost exactly what's in the back, but more readable. You know what? I would have many generations later. So yeah, it's basically the same, almost the same. All right, let's just read it because it's almost the same, but not quite. Yeah, there's a little bit more, slightly different wording. Eons ago, the sky shattered and something ate the moon and stars, leaving us with only our sun, small cluster of planets, and a new twisted moon. Something burst from the Sky Eater, fell to our planet, and began to twist and warp it. It was the end of our world before anyone living could remember. Now, many generations later, our people's remnants wander the twisted land and fight the bioluminescent night-crawling creatures, searching our castles and cities' ruins for ancient magic and technology to help us survive. The brave and hopeful work to keep our pocket-sized towns together and alive. Now, many years after our stars were devoured, you find yourself searching the ruins with your new partner. I hope you find what you're looking for. Now, while there will be some spoilers as we go through, the setting is left very wide open. You are presented with a set of questions, and as much setting as this game gives you, it's almost entirely in vibes and flavor. It lets you flesh out the actual world, what's going on in it, who lives in it, pretty much to yourself and to your players. You create that as you go as part of character creation, which we'll see soon enough. But at the same time, it does an amazing job of giving you just the flavor of the thing. So we'll see that as we go. Let's see, safety tools. Yep. So we've got the simple explanation of lines, veils, and the X card, and an example given speech to introduce the concepts at the table. So I very much appreciate that. Any link to it. So far, out of the indie RPGs that we've seen, this is the one that's done, in my opinion, the best approach to the safety tools. It mentions some specific ones, gives you enough information to use them as is, gives you a pretty good example in case you're unsure of how to bring them to the table, and provides a link if you want more. So it doesn't put the whole weight of the safety tools discussion on an outside link. It makes it clear that, hey, this is how the game is supposed to be played, and here's everything you need. Here's a little bit more if you want more. Excellent work, very nicely done. Then we've got our acknowledgements, and this one's actually pretty important as well, because like many indie RPGs, you say, keep your politics out of art. No, fuck that. All art is political, and so these games tend to spell it out a little bit clearer, and I sincerely appreciate that as well. So acknowledgements. The world of G&S houses a wide diversity of peoples and cultures. You and everyone you meet can be imagined however you want. Any and every expression of sexuality, culture, gender, ability, etc. is to be respected to the fullest extent. When you sit down to play Gun Slinger, you agree to punch fascists and stomp on bigotry. You will respect your fellow players and their needs, concerns, and traumas. At any point, for any reason, a player can veto narrative elements. Even if you spent something or drew cards, do not use my words to justify harming others. entertainment, and safety above all. So, excellent approach. And then, of course, genre, land, acknowledgements, etc., etc. So a lot more details there. I'll let you go through them on your own if you want, or also I suggest pick up the game. Well done. And this little bit here, which I almost missed the first time because I was so focused on this cool ass sort of like weird Wendigo creature. But this is some great, a great little bit that it's very easy to miss on first pass, and it's the agendas. And it kind of gives you the agendas and the things that you should be bringing to this game depending on the roles that you have chosen. So for example, for the Gun and Slinger both, so for the players, your agendas say, put yourself in danger, search for what you want, leave people with stories to tell. Then for the Gun, the specific agenda, to be an extension of the Slinger's arm and an agent of the strange. And for the Slinger, be the hammer that sparks the gun and an agent for change. And then for the Maestro, who is the GM role in this game, use the twist interestingly, create intrigue and drama, make the world threatening. And together, all players, do what's most interesting, learn about the world, and escalate imminent dangers. So I love that it gives you this, like, here's the kind of game that this is for, here's the things and the attitudes that you should be bringing into this game depending on your role. I absolutely love how that gets included there. My only complaint is it's almost too easy to miss because it's just this little section that you might just skip over, as happened to me the first time, because again, look at all this art. It's absolutely lovely. I really dig the design here. All right, so here's what I was saying about the setting. It's going to give you elements of the setting, and it's going to tell you how weird it is, but you'll notice that it's going to give you a lot of blanket statements and past history and mysterious, like it's going to avoid pinning down a lot of details, and that's very much on purpose. So we'll read through some of this. Because it's an incredible setting and I love it. Setting elements. Gun and Slinger takes place on a planet very different from our own. Eons after a cataclysmic event, people continue struggling to survive. There are no stars, only the sun and new twisted moon. Castles, cities, and townships' remnants are half buried in dirt and sand. Ghosts wander the ruins and cracks. Golden Age magic and technology lie beneath it all, waiting to be exhumed and woken. Some people search for these historical pieces, and others claim them. So it's a sort of a post-apocalyptic, vast, long ago. The apocalypse happened literally eons ago. So it's not just fresh post-apocalyptic, but it is a world built on the ruins of the past. Not even built, like barely survived on the ruins of the past. So there's a little bit of that Numenera vibe, where there's a lot of like old ancient technology that might as well be magic, and high weirdness in those same senses. So there is, if you're familiar with Numenera as a setting and as a game, there are definitely some similar vibes here. But whereas Numenera, I feel, is a more hopeful vibe, a more it shows these cycles, and it's the 9th world, and someday there will be a 10th and an 11th, etc., etc. Here, this is very much a world that is ending, a world that has been twisted, or if it's not ending, at least it has changed forever. And, it feels like it's on the decline, even if, the humanity as always is trying to claw some of it back and survive in this strange, twisted, long ago changed and scarred land. See, days and nights. Days are vibrant. The last sun feeds all the plant life it reaches. The green, rolling hills thrive, drinking up sunlight and waving in the breeze. Life unmarred by the twist is beautiful and sustained. The nights, though, are dim, illuminated only by the omnipresent pale blue moon. Twisted bioluminescent beasts wander and hunt, claimed by the twist, their designs extrapolated to grotesque degrees. Whether extra appendages, constantly drooling thick ichor, or additional misplaced mouths and eyes, these hostile creatures are animated by the twist's strange new instinct. In a single word, they're wrong. Much the moon touches twists over time, and whatever the Sky Eater left is claiming and reshaping things' forms in life. Most travel by day whenever possible. Even then, there's no guarantee of safety from the twist. So the twist, even from this description here, it is kind of a pollution, but also the fact that it touches and changes things over time. And this whole, like, in a single word, they're wrong, also reminds me very much of things like the novel and movie Annihilation, where an alien, very alien thing, something that does not belong here, either crashed here or came here, and its mere presence is caustic and hostile to the world as we know. And the world as we know twists and changes into something hostile to us merely by its presence. There's also a touch of that in the game that we saw yesterday, Blazing Him, where these other dimensional aliens, these angels, come in, and just like that, they are actively hostile to humanity, and they bleed and create this corruption. What was the name of it? I was going to say condescension. No, wait, I've got it right here. What was it? The condemnation, right? They bleed condemnation. So this creature bleeds twist. And the twist, well, as said, twists the world around it. So I like these influences that it's got. Given the themes and topics that we've covered, I seem to have a type of game that I am drawn to, unsurprisingly. Let's see. So again, lands and graves of the past. So a little bit more on the setting. Long ago, this planet pulsed with life. Neither you nor anyone you know was around, but you see prior societies' artifacts on your travels. Castles choked by moss and ivy, hills reclaiming statues that once stood upon them, crumbling vaults and treasuries whose depths hide secrets and ancient magics, decaying infrastructure too advanced to operate. To some, the Golden Age ruins speak of potential. To others, they're a warning. Eons since the sky's death, the land may be beautiful, but it no longer breathes the same life. Green, rolling hills are flecked with the past's remains, and new civilizations' marks from the last couple hundred years are sometimes built in and around the ruins. People live in these distant, civilized pockets, surviving on whatever fertile land is available, and cooperating as best they can to survive. The land isn't all green hills and pleasant nature. There are forests of trees and fungus, swamps of twisted creatures, and lakes of twist-touched oil. There are massive canyons and tectonic rips that seem to scream. For, as much beauty as the world still holds, the twist has claimed and shifted in equal, violent measure. So, technology and peoples of the world. Again, we are getting broad strokes here. So far we haven't been pointed here's the kingdom of so-and-so and the city of so and the people of the land of blah. It's just the world and the twist. Well, I think we do get some minor examples, but it's all very much just no, here's the things that exist in the world, the topics, the levels of technology, the nature and the surroundings. But once again, it really does, and I'll give you a preview as we go. See, we have some general factions, some kinds of scholars here that are barely detailed. And then again, just themes and topics, touchstones, what the twist is. And even then, it just explains the twist very much in vibes-based language. When I got to this part, the creatures, I thought, we're gonna get a bestiary here. Barely. We got 2 examples. This game is you're gonna create this. We're gonna give you the vibes, but this is your game, very much. I do wish we got more in the bestiary. I kind of would have loved some more examples. I don't begrudge them, though. Given what we did get, it's still pretty cool, so I don't begrudge them that too much. But I would pick up. I would pay money for. And here's the thing: that you'll notice that these beasts don't really have stats here. They're just ideas. Well, once we get to once we get to the system, you'll see what I mean. This is very much a story forward, low low rules kind of system, and we'll understand it soon enough. We'll understand it soon enough. I'm getting ahead of myself. So let's talk a little bit more about the setting, technology, and the peoples of the world. Technology, infrastructure, transportation, and the like are a mishmash mix of steam-powered components, recovered and reverse-engineered magitech, and ill-advised attempt at harnessing the pale moon's power. While imperfect, it helped feed stories of the people's past greatness, providing much welcomed aid in the fight to transcend mere survival. Travel is by horse, cart, foot, and vehicle. Cobbled up low-tech motorcycles and small kit-bash cars zip from city to town to ruin and back. Repaired and upcycled trains run on the last remaining rails people work to recover and improve. Old crafts are passed down, parent to child, evolving as communal knowledge grows. Clothes are a mix of leather, metal, and cloth. Armor looks medieval in some locales, modern in others. If you're lucky, you might even find something magical. And yes, magic is very much real in this world, as noted by the Magitech section coming right up. People farm, trade, and craft. Townships do their best to maintain a pleasant relationship with their closest neighbors across dangerous wilds, knowing they'll only thrive through collaboration. Some mercenaries, bounty hunters, and others hired for coin often make or protect runs between cities, provided the coin's right. Nothing's really off the table. Based on remnants, it seems people traveled off-planet, as made evidenced by a few massive crashed, reclaimed, or hidden rockets. Presently, space travel, even short distance to the sister planets, almost never happens. Most, even provided means, fear the sky. Even if you find someone able, the cost for them to be willing is very high. Magitech. What is Magitech? Magical technology. Magitech is a fusion of traditional technology, circuits, steam, electrical currents, massive machinery, with reclaimed magical remnants. They're more efficient or can do things in unusual ways. In Gun Slinger, it's essentially a way to create interesting anachronistic technology attributable to magic and the long-past golden age. It's our equivalent of a wizard did it. Use it to make cool shit exist in your world. So see what I mean? Like, it tells you, like, hey, there's Magitech, here's the vibes, here's the vibes of how people live, but we're not detailing any specific towns or living places or anything. We're telling you the Magitech is here and what to use it for. It exists in a vibes, there's very much a vibes-based game design that we've got here. Again, with the factions and threats. Let me hydrate a moment. Factions and threats. There are a few things that are, without a doubt, threats and... Oh, there we go. There we go. Shine away. Threats and antagonists to the world's peoples. Firstly, the twist and all it has claimed. Malevolent monsters, furious flora, and troublesome titanic beings make the wilds dangerous. The twist can influence everything anywhere and can even shape the world. It's constantly working towards some unknowable goal. Look! That's all I ask from other games. P23. Now that we're like... We already mentioned the twist a few times before. I did kind of, forgive it. Technically, I would have liked to see that P23 earlier on, as soon as the twist is mentioned, I guess first time in the book, because it's definitely not the first time. But, hey, look, here we go. Now that we're discussing the twist a little more, here's here's how you get to that. So, hey, look, at least we're starting to see the kind of thing I like to see. And then the various independent assemblages beyond the township or city's general populace. Bandits, mercenary companies, and other freebooters prioritizing their needs before others. Some for money, others for fame, and some simply like the thrill. There are as many of these groups as needed to fill out your world. And then there are the scholars. Curiosities endlessly piqued by the twist. They go to incredible lengths to study it, attempting to decipher its cryptic, unknowable ways. Wizened elders, ecstatic apprentices, and adventurous bookworms. The twist interests all kinds. Though there haven't been any major discoveries, the world scholars are unyielding in their hunt for knowledge. Not all scholars study the twist in isolation. Many study its effect on things to varying degrees. They take titles related to their specific objects of study, always appended with the suffix keeper. These titles are collectively agreed upon by scholarly society. Examples: Green's Keeper, who studies nature. Twist Keeper, studies the twist in depth. Mind Keeper, studies the twist's mental effects and general mental health. So again, just some examples. It doesn't detail the full society of these keepers. It just goes like, hey, these exist. Here's some quick examples. Use them for whatever you want. And I did in one of our games. I think I had a twist keeper. Spoilers if you're not caught up. Not huge spoilers. A twist keeper exists in the game. Okay, so here's this is good. This part here is also very well done in that it gives you the tone, just in case what it's giving you so far, the description, the setting it's not quite enough. Gasp. Anyway, it's not enough. Here's a little bit more sort of detail on what they're going for with this game. So there's a lot of room to play in Gun Slinger's setting. There are no provided cities, landmarks, or creatures. Your world's places, people, and possibilities are created collaboratively by everyone at the table and discovered through play. There are a few key aspects of the game world to keep in mind. So see, it spells it out literally and directly for you that, hey, you're making up this world. But here's the touchstones. So long as you keep these things in mind, you're playing in the world of this game. So some touchstones, for example, are the beautiful and strange nature of Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind, the ancient civilization's remnants and magic in The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild, Trigun's alien landscapes, struggles with destructive nature, and fighting for survival in harsh lands, Pitch Black's horrifying darkness and violent monsters, Subnautica's alien flora and fauna, both massive and minuscule, and Outer Wilds' unsubtle existentialism and fireside guitar plucking. All of these, by the way, are excellent. I have played or experienced each and every single one of these, and probably a big reason why I love this game, because all of these resonated with me. At its heart, Gun Slinger's world is one of survival, mystery, and danger. Civilization is stabilized in isolated pockets within a hostile landscape between locations. Your game may only have one quote-unquote major city, you decide. Travel and... Wait, I'm losing track of where I'm going. Civilization has stabilized in isolated pockets within a hostile landscape. Your game may only have one major city. You decide. Travel between locations is slow and arduous. People walk, ride horses, and even ride machines cobbled together from weird magical remnants and janky technology, which is, by the way, kind of what Dave and Jesus did with their characters. And because I love them, and for no other reason, motorcycles exist. Opinionated game design, which I agree with. Motorcycles should always exist. Big fan of that. I've only experienced half of those, and those still hit the vibes, right? Right? You should experience the rest of them. They're all good. The world in general is pretty dangerous. Roaming nighttime creatures are far from the only threat. There are dangerous flora and fauna, remnant magical mechana. Remnant magical mechana, actual ghosts of varying hostility, and bandits or even ruthless shithead leaders. Everyone fights to stay alive. So that's the world. Those are the touchstones. That's the world that you're in now. Let's see. Remember how they pointed us at page? Wait, did they point us at page 23? They did. Well, okay. Hey, Gun Slinger. You pointed me at page 23 for the twist. It's actually page 25. Points for the attempt, but you missed by a couple pages. There's a couple of moments like that in this book. I hate to admit it. You hate to see it. But anyway, let's get a little bit more of, again, and you're going to see that it's very much a vibes-based description of what the twist. You're never going to get a list of, these are the specific specific tests of twist infection or that sort of thing. It's very much, again, a vibes-based kind of system here. I feel like that's a layout issue going from print. It could be. Exactly. It's a simple goof. But, we ran into it. Yeah, exactly. That's due page offset currently. Let's see if the rest match. Good point. Good point. We'll see. We'll see. Let's see. So the twist. The twist's force crawls across the land, left behind and forgotten by whatever ate the sky. It touches, claims, and mutates what it wants, or perhaps needs. It's hard to discern if it has a real goal, runs on instinct, or perhaps something worse. Its goals and their manifestations are discovered and formed through play. It's on every planet in this cluster, taking many forms. It possesses and manipulates anything, organic, inorganic, sapient, or otherwise. It doesn't matter. It takes and reshapes things to fit its desires, whether a swarm of rats, a bandit leader, or a monstrous human Venus flytrap hybrid. You decide. So again, it's that very much that Annihilation vibe. It's just this force of twisting, of change, of corruption that is unknowable, ununderstandable, beyond our ken to understand. Keeps going. The twist can also, and check out that moon. Check out the blue moon, the thing that was left behind. The new moon. That the thing that ate the sky left behind. The twist can also mess with the world's other facets. It can inhabit or change any environmental feature. During setup, you'll establish a few unique ways the twist change your world, but these are two constants. So again, it's very much your world, but here's the touchstones, here's the constants, here's the things that will be true no matter what. The twist is definitely related to the new moon, that the thing that ate the sky left behind. There's likely more to it than that, but the connection is a fact. The twist owns the night. There are novel, largely nocturnal, bioluminescent flora and fauna. Not all are aggressive, terrible horrors. Some are natural evolutions who soaked up the new moon's light. So, basic established. Creatures and twist-touched wilds. In play, you have free reign to create your own creatures and twist manifestations. In my case, that's mostly been lots and lots of spiders and weird trees. The twist and twist-touched should be difficult, interesting encounters, keeping everyone on their toes. Thanks to how Gun Slinger works, twist creatures don't require stats, and their appearance and abilities are infinitely flexible. They could be an entire species or type, singular, unique creatures, or even recurring baddies, which I dig. I would still love a little bit more description for this. And again, the fact that they don't have stats means you don't need a bestiary, but I would have liked more creatures, more examples, just a few more for inspiration. But the two we did get, are still pretty cool. So here are some manifestations I've used. Feel free to use them and don't hesitate to make your own. Inventing a threat as a group can be good fun too, but also, yes, it's meant to be very much collaborative storytelling more than anything else. The gorilla fungus. This massive creature lives on the fungal forest outskirts. It's massive, incredibly quick, and transforms its bodily fungal growths into light, sturdy armor. It's tougher to fight in the forest as the landscape's familiar and it instinctually gets around faster. And the bandit and Helldog. A bandit leader possessed by the twist gained various gifts manifesting his deep powers. This is less a twist creature and more a person who made a deal with something they didn't understand. They have a pet Helldog, a 4-foot-tall fiery hound summoned with an artifact, a small purple coin. The dog has a lash tongue and is almost impossible to outrun on foot. I mean, look at that thing. That is cool as fuck. I would have loved a few more ideas like this just to give you more inspiration, because these are great. That said, I love them, and they definitely covered the gamut from just mindless beast to intelligent, dangerous, yet still deeply strange, yet at the same time once human, so in a weird way relatable, enemies. I love that. So this is a game of exploration, as the book says. Exploration and mystery. So you're going to travel to many places, which is one of my favorite parts about it. Is very much you're a wanderer, your journey. You're not settling down. And creating the places that you will go on that journey collaboratively. Lots of fun. Original sort of session 0, session 1 character and world creation in this game. It has been a lot of fun in my experience. So be sure to name everyone met and every town and outpost visited. Doing so helps build the world, further realizing it and providing places and people to return to. When visiting a new town, name it and answer, what's the weather like? How are the roads? How do they stay afloat? When meeting a new person, name them and answer, what are their pronouns? What's their worry? What's their need? In my case, I've created, I already have a basic plot for the adventures that I've run, but at the same time, this game is meant to be collaborative storytelling. The group, everyone in the group is going to also just be adding elements to the game. Let's see. Yeah, I can see the line to once human you're making with that, but also why stop there? Humanoid enemy types from all games are on the table. Clickers, RE zombies, Metro. Exactly. No, you can go pretty wild with this. Again, I would have enjoyed definitely more examples of the kinds of creatures and beings that would exist in this world. All right, so now we're getting into the nitty-gritty. Now we're getting into the mechanics. Now we're going to break out those cards. Doing things and resolution, your resolution mechanics. So this is the right place for it, I think. Like we've been given a decent amount. If this setting info that we've been given had gone on much longer, then maybe I would have complained and said maybe the resolution system should have been a little bit earlier. Like maybe after sort of the first bit of intro before we went into the world proper, like maybe here I would have put the resolution system if the world section was really any bigger than it is. But since it's not, we just got sold the idea of the world and encouraged to make our own. Now before we get into the proper nitty-gritty and everything else and your character and the setting of the world, now we're gonna first get familiar with the mechanics, as we should. This is a thing that's become a pet peeve for me with some of our games, where it's like, okay, we want to play this new game. Before you tell me the setting, tell me the mechanics. I need to know what I'm getting into mechanics wise before you tell me to sit down and make a character. I need to know. I need to know if what I roll or what cards I draw before I actually sit down and make a character. Because otherwise I don't care. I don't care about the setting. I don't care about anything else. Because if the setting is great, but then it turns out that I made a character that's going to die the moment I step outside, I'm not going to enjoy myself. And just knowing what the system is helps me get a feel for the kind of game that it's going to be, which in this case is deeply weird. So let's look at that. Doing things in resolution. The players and Maestro are participating in Go Fish, notably modified to fit RPG structure. So that is our resolution mechanic. You are playing a version of Go Fish. When a player wants to do something under pressure or with an uncertain outcome, the Maestro can request a check. The player then asks either the Maestro or the other player if they have a particular card. Hey, Gun, do you have any 5s, for example? The person who is asked must answer truthfully. They're very clear on that. If they have any cards of that value, they are handed to the petitioner. If not, the asker draws a card from the deck. If at any point someone's hand contains a pair, two cards of matched value, it is set face down on the table in front of them. The Maestro does not make pairs, keeping all their hands cards. This area is called their cache, and pairs remain here until use. Players may peek at their own pairs whenever, but not anyone else's. So this was a point of contention, not for me, but during play it wasn't clear. But the way I'm interpreting this to go, and I believe the way it's intended, is if at any point someone's hand contains a pair, it is set face down. So let's take a quick example of that. Let's go ahead and draw these cards here, and okay. So let's say this is this is a big hand. Let's say this is our hand. Sure, whatever. And we immediately notice that we do have a pair. We have a pair of 10s. So the moment we have that pair, I can't just keep it in my hand secret anymore. I'm going to have a pair. It's still secret, but I lay it down, as it says here, set face down on the table because the value of the pair matters. But with this pair, I would immediately set that down in front of me. That is one of my pairs. So I, as the GM, as the maestro, and the other players were aware that these pairs have been set down and the rest of my hand remains. Now, if I was to, well, we'll do the go fish shortly, right? So now a new action. They go, okay, I as the gun want to teleport across the room and do X, Y, and Z. Cool. I'm going to need you to go ahead and do a check on that. And you go, okay, hey, GM, do you have any 5s? And I, the GM, will look at my hand, which is going to be this, and apparently I do not. So I go, no, go fish. And he goes, okay, cool. And draws a card. And now, all of a sudden, he's immediately got another pair. Now, you do this even before you play, like the moment you begin to check, immediately go fish, because you might immediately form another pair. Now I've got 2 pairs to work with. Now is when I will go, okay, let's do the rest of this, because this is how I as a player am going to pay for my actions. Also note that the GM's hand here has a pair of 8s, does not care. You keep them. The GM, the maestro, uses their cards, to give out for Go Fish, but also to activate certain specific events, which we'll see a little bit later on. Also, face cards have different effects as well, so we'll get to those very shortly. So we established the cache, established the pairs. Now, after the player making the check requests a card and either receives or draws one, at that point the maestro reveals the check's difficulty and cost. It is an easy check, doing it costs 4. And then the player either pays with a pair, requests a bargain, or accepts failure. So a check's cost and occurrence is the maestro's decision. So, and this was a little complicated, surprisingly, because I think the book doesn't quite make clear in some areas quite what the cost is supposed to be for certain things. We'll get to that shortly. But a check's cost and occurrence is a maestro's decision. The maestro should rely on situational context and their judgment for determining when a check is appropriate. Some good heuristics for requesting a check is when the outcome is uncertain, there's immediate pressure, or failure or mixed success would provide interesting narrative outcomes. Important notes about pairs. A pair has its single card value. For example, a pair of 10s is worth 10. So let's go ahead and have these pairs here ready. So a pair of 4s is worth 4. A pair of 10s is worth 10, not 20, 10. The total value paid is the pair's value plus your relevant stat. So if I am paying for a roll, let's say that example roll where they say, okay, it's an easy check, doing it costs 4. Well, I as a player, even though these are technically face down in front of me, but I as a player can at any point check my pairs and go, okay, I've got a 4, I've got a 10. Okay, you said this is difficulty 4, cool. I pay for it with 4 plus the appropriate stat. We'll look at the stats shortly, but even without the stat, that would have been a success because that was very easy. I'm not going to waste my 10 on that when I have a 4. So it is interesting in that it's almost like you are, in terms of comparing this to dice, it is the equivalent of rolling whenever, or rather, whenever you attempt an action, or rather you have a set of rolls. In certain rolls, you set aside their results and keep them. And then anytime you have to make a check, you make another secret roll, and you might or might not keep it. And then I tell you, okay, this is a difficulty, a DC 12, for example. Then you would look at your stored rolls and use probably the closest to a 12 that you've got, plus your stat, your modifier, to resolve that. So there is a level of like you are managing your results. And you can, in fact, exceed rather than exactly pay the cost, which is good. Because, for example, the difficulty 4, well, I already have 4, and let's say my appropriate stat is a 2, well, that makes it a 6. That's still a success. You can meet or exceed the result. Straightforward. Good to know. Other actions happen with checks. See basic moves. So this is a basic check, the most basic thing. One player doing a thing by themselves, and I think where this was unclear is that it only tells you like, okay, so an easy is a 4, but it doesn't give you any more examples here. Later on, see, there's an easy, medium, and hard, but this is for a blind pay. It doesn't really define in the book how easy, what those ranges are. Does it? No, it really doesn't. In the example, in the simplified check steps, it says, oh, the maestro says the check is hard, so that's an 11. So through figuring it out, we can see that an easy check is 4 and a hard check is an 11. So a medium check is a 7, maybe? I don't see that here, which is annoying. But at the same time, if I'm not entirely mistaken, I don't know if it's in the book or if it's a separate. I think that there is, just like for the player characters, there is a maestro 3-part character, 3-part sheet. Let me see if we run into it real quick. Yeah, the maestro's toolkit. Let's see. So here we go. Declaring difficulty and cost, but then it changes up your terms. Now it's simple, involved, and complicated. But it's so there is a bit of a disconnect. Like I don't think. Yeah, like this, for example, doesn't necessarily need to be relegated to. I guess this works. No, I guess this works because this is just giving you. Maybe as a player, this is what's going to happen. The GM is going to tell you your difficulty. That's it, and just get the player used to your GM is going to give you your difficulties, and then in the GM session, okay, here's how you set these difficulties. But my first time around, I got pretty confused. I didn't know exactly how to do that, and the fact that they changed the terms. Early on they go hard and easy, and now they go simple, involved, and complicated. It's not a huge problem, but switching terms halfway through does feel a little weird, and definitely helped me, because when I was looking for this, I was looking for hard, easy, and complicated, simple, easy, or easy, middle, and hard, or whatever. Point is, I wasn't looking for these specific terms, and I think I leafed through them a couple of times as I was going. So that was a bit more annoying. But also, I think the 3-part, which might not be in the book, might just be a separate download, but the 3-part GM thing does definitely include that. And let's see here. Okay, so that's the basic check. You get the general idea. You get the general gist. That's how you do an everyday action just for your player character. However, there is something more. Well, first of all, before we get that, how to treat stats. So they did mention right here, right, that whenever you pay you pay a pair to pass a check, you add your relevant stat. And so, what are your stats? Because the human, you kind of feel, okay, probably I know what their stats are going to be. No, you don't. But for the gun, what are the stats on a gun as a character rather than as a weapon, right? And so it's interesting, the stats that this game has. I like them. So your stats are intentionally flexible and interpretive. While geared towards a few fairly obvious actions, they have a wide variety of uses. When determining which stat a check entails, first focus on how you're accomplishing your task, working backwards to determine the applicable stat. If you don't have a situational what is with my pronunciation today? If you don't have a situationally relevant stat, or you can't agree which applies, make the check without a modifying stat, just a straight check, which is how a lot of them end up. So when making a check, always add your relevant stat. For example, I spend a 3 pair for a check, and my light on my toes stat is a 2. So stat plus 3 is 5. Stat 2 plus pair 3 is 5. That's what you're paying. Pretty straightforward. And here's the stats that you are being given, the starting stats and examples of use. And so the first 3 here are for the gun, and the other 3 here are for the slinger. So your 3 stats as a gun are embodiment of magic, the gun's relationship with magic, how good at they are they at it, how much do they know, usable for any magic adjacent check. And this is, I really love the separation between the magic and the twist. We'll see that shortly. Sharp for a gun. How clever are you? How smart? How physically sharp? Primarily concerned with quick wits and knowledge, but if you want, can be taken literally. And just a little bit mean. Are you an angry gun? Intimidating? Short-tempered? This covers all of those and anything else you can imagine. So those are your 3 stats as a gun. As a slinger, your 3 stats are, I've been around. How much have you traveled? Been a lot of places, learned a lot of things. Consider this a measure of worldly knowledge. Wisdom concerning the world's workings and ability to find things. It's even used for reading people. Good in a fight. Maybe you're more brawn than brain. Usable for a fist fight or perhaps intimidation. Maybe even sizing someone up. And light on my toes. How fast are you? How good at sneaking? This could even cover maintaining footing or balancing on shaky ground. So the human stats are a little bit closer to classic, charisma / wisdom, strength and dexterity, strength and constitution, dexterity, movement, speed. Meanwhile, for a gun, it is knowledge, or specifically it's magic. Your stats are magic, intelligence, and just mean. Magic, intelligence, and mean. All right, so once again, simplified check steps. Okay, so this one is, oh, right. So here's, actually, these 2 pages I feel should be backwards, because here's some concepts that affect the simplified check steps. So a few more concepts from, and this one's kind of weird that recovering from damage is here, even though I feel like this should be this feels off. This part maybe should be somewhere else, because here we're still giving aid and blind pay. We're still talking resolution system. Recovering from damage should probably have gone in the combat section, which I think we do see, shortly. Here in combat and actions, shooting, killing, other violence acts. Here, this is where harm for the slinger, with the scrape and minor injuries and everything. I love this art, but in this space, maybe this art would have been a little bit smaller, is where this paragraph I feel should have been. But since we've got it, might as well refer to it real quick. So players heal up, restock, and regain half of all their use, twist, and connection. So these are, again, I don't believe this is here, is we haven't defined twist and connection for a character yet, what those means. These are actual currencies within the game that you spend to activate certain powers and abilities. And so you recover from those every time if you're in a safe place when a session ends. Not if you end on an intense cliffhanger like amidst a shootout. As a heuristic, camping somewhere relatively safe means you'll heal. You can also, so your twist and connection is weird because it is damage. It's not even there is harm. There is an actual injury and damage and scrapes thing. But they're referring to your twist and connection, which are a currency mechanic that you spend to activate certain abilities, but referring to it as recovering from damage. So this entire paragraph here is weird. It is not only in the wrong place, but it seems to be referring to the wrong thing. It's more like just recovering in general, which again probably would have been better included here. Whatever. You can also recover using items, paying a doctor, or with extended rest. Just remember, time moves ever forward. Okay, cool. Now back to actually talking about the system, because as we saw before, so far it was just one player trying to pay the cost of a thing, right? But what if the other player, the gun or the gun for the slinger or the slinger to the gun, they're like, hey, I want to help him with this. How do I aid him? Well, giving aid. Players can aid one another once per check by describing how they are assisting and paying a single from their hand, adding it to the total paid. And this is really interesting because, let's put the book aside a second, because again, let's go back to our player here. So we've got our pair of 10s and our pair of 4s, right? And we don't want to use that 10 yet because that's going to be useful later. We are starting the game, and this is our hand, right? We have let's say this is our hand as player 1. Meanwhile, we've got player 2. Player 2 also has, they've got this hand. Sure, why not? And hey, they've got a pair of 3s. Not that it matters for the purpose that we're going to do, but let's see. Player 1, there we go. Player 2, and let's just see he drew back. Okay, so this is his current hand. This is current hand. And this is the other one. Here we go. Look at this. Look at this. And then so let's go through the process. So, player 1, the gun says, I am doing a thing. I, as the GM, this is going to be my hand. I, as the GM, go, all right, that's going to require a check. I, as player, go, okay, cool. I want high cards. I want to make pairs. And my strategy, the book doesn't say this, but as a strategy, I want to take high cards from the GM, from the maestro, and I take low cards from other players. So if I'm asking for a 3 or a 5, I'd probably ask the other player. But if I'm asking for let's say a 7 or an 8, then I'm going to ask the GM. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and say, okay, Maestro, do you have any 8s? And the Maestro looks at his hand and goes, go fish, because he doesn't have any. No 8s for the Maestro. I'm going to keep that here. And no, go fish. All right, great. So then I ask the player, reach into the deck. Let me take out these jokers. Joker. There we go. I draw from the deck and I get a queen. That's going to matter later. Not for this example. I also don't want to use my queen yet. You go, oh, okay, cool. Once that is done, then the Maestro, signified here by his hand, goes, cool. So that's a medium difficulty check. You're going to need a 7 to pass it. And I go, oh, damn. Now, let me check something real quick. Does it say here, player can aid once per check? It's kind of how they are assisting. Okay, no. So I go, damn. And I turn to the other player, the slinger, here. And I go, damn, because I don't want to spend that 10 yet. I don't want to spend it. This is difficulty 7. And let's say my appropriate stat for this is a 2. So if I play that 4, that pair of 4s, that would only get me to 6. That's not enough. So I turn to my buddy and go, hey, can you help me? I don't need a lot. Just whatever you can spare. The other player, instead of looking at his pairs to help you with, he's only got a pair of 3s, which, would be enough, but he can't actually help you with that. You help the other player with the cards that are in your hand. And since he told you, oh, cool, you don't need a lot. All right, cool. I'm going to play a 3. And then now with that 4 plus 2, 6 plus 3, 9, that beats the 7. The check succeeds. An actual game, I would have had to explain how I'm helping. But that's basically how assistance works. And I do like that there is that division. You've got the points, the pairs that are for yourself, and then this reserve that you can use to help the other player. I really like that little approach. It is a little confusing, but I like it. And then a blind pay. Blind pays, then just throw all of that we just learned out the window. So as much as I like this game, it's very different from what you're used to in an average game, right? Because a blind pay, all of a sudden you're no longer playing Go Fish. In a blind pay, all of a sudden it becomes a game of blackjack. Let's go ahead and read that. So the blind pay, both players place a single from their hand. So again, for a blind pay, your pairs don't matter. It's only the stuff that's in your hand that matters for a blind pay. So again, it kind of twists your initial expectations. Both players, place a single from their hand face down, obscuring their respective cards before simultaneously revealing and combining their value. A blind pace difficulty is calculated as follows. The maestro sets a difficulty based on the ranges below and flips the deck's top card, the modifier, adding it to the blind pace total. Blind pays are always used when the players attempt to shoot something, but the maestro can always call for one for simultaneous gun and slinger actions. So I kind of blubbed all over that. Blind pays are always used when players attempt to shoot something, but the maestro can always call one for simultaneous gun and slinger actions. So here's the thing. When the gun is fired in this game, and they will state that outright in the book as well, the gun cannot fire itself. It requires the gunslinger to fire it. But also, the gunslinger cannot fire the gun if the gun does not wish to be fired. And in fact, that came up in our game a couple of times. Suzu was playing the gunslinger, the slinger rather, drew Dave as the gun, and went, and I shoot the guy. And Dave's like, no, you don't. Because he was like, yeah, but I pulled the trigger. I was like, yeah, and I don't want to shoot him, so no, you don't. So that happens. It is very much an act and a decision that has to be made by both players. But also, as a magical sentient gun, when you shoot something, it goes down. There is no, you'll see that there are no damage calculations. There is no way to count how much damage the gun is doing. There are no hit points. Monsters have no stats. If you shoot and you succeed in the blind pay to do so, you defeat that enemy. The gun is powerful, but that is also why the blind pay is the way it is, because it is a blind pay. You'll notice that both players have to place their cards face down. They do not consult with each other. They have to reveal them at the same time, because, as we'll see now, you're basically playing blackjack. You don't want to go over 21. So blind pays are always used when the player attempts to shoot something, but the maestro can always call for one for simultaneous gun and slinger actions. So, step 1, the maestro declares a blind pay and sets its difficulty. We'll see a difficulty in the next page. The maestro flips the deck's top card, the modifier card. The players play a single face-down card from their hand, trying combined to exceed the difficulty without bursting, e.g. exceeding a 21. So, every blind pay has a set difficulty based on the action's context. If the total of the players and modifier cards ties or exceeds the difficulty, the action is successful. If the total is 21 plus, the action busts and fails. So here, right, there's different, and here's where we use easy, medium, and hard, but also a completely different range of difficulties because it's a different system. One was Go Fish, this is basically blackjack, even both use their same cards. So this is confusing. I get it and I like it, but be warned, it is a little confusing. In blind pays, face cards are worth 10, aces are worth 1 or 11, determined after the reveal. Good, kind of just like real blackjack. One player may choose to add their relevant stats to a blind pay after revealing the card. So I like that as well. You are not penalized for having a high stat that could apply to the roll. Only one player can apply their stat to the roll if it applies, and it's optional. So it's not like, oh shit, we got a 20, we got an excellent, perfect 21, but when I add my stat, we bust. It's like, then don't add the stat, you don't need to. It's all right, but it is an option to help you get there. And scoring a 21 exactly is a pure success, as with aces. What does that mean? I know what it means because I've read ahead, but again, you're referring to a mechanic that we have not gotten yet. What is a pure success? See page something. And aces, what do you mean? So aces and face cards do have something special, but we haven't been told about that yet. So a lot of stuff becomes clear later. Should have been, detailed a little bit better. But you get the idea behind this. So example of play, let's go ahead and we're not going to even read this, we're just going to do it ourselves. So once again, Let's say it's very shortly after. So we still have mostly these same hands. This is player 1's hand with his... For this, it's not going to matter, right? We don't care about the pairs for what we're going to do with the blind pay. So we have player 1's hand. Let's go ahead and move their player 2's pairs up there. Player 1 hand right there. Player 2's hand. Now keep in mind, player 1 and player 2 do not know what each other is holding. And they decide, oh no, the winged spider monkey beast is coming right at us. We have no choice. We're going to shoot it. I go, okay, cool. You're both in agreement that you're going to take this shot? Yes. Cool. That's going to be a blind pay. Now we're starting with a king. We're starting with a 10. That's our base. So now both players, without consulting each other, have to think, what is the other guy going to do? Because we have to cooperate, but we have to cooperate based on vibes. They are not allowed to talk. So this adds a sense of tension to those things. It makes it so it's harder than you think to pass this, because now they know that they cannot go past 11 together, because they would go past 21. Oh, and he goes, oh, and this is a hard shot, so this is going to be difficulty 18. And they're like, well, fuck, that means you really can only succeed on an 18, 19, 20, or perfect 21. So somehow both players have to, haven't you forgotten to ask someone about this? Have to, vibe off each other and hopefully not bust. I heard it when I said it. So we could see something like this. Neither one of them is probably going to be on, ready to spend much, but this might feel like too low. So player 2 might decide to take a wild risk. No, actually no. As player 2, I don't think he would do that, because then this would only be useful as a 1. Because by default, unless the other player also played an ace, then you can't use this as an 11. If he was playing solo, yeah, that'd be a perfect 21, but you can't do that. So he's going to have to take a risk. And he's going to go, well, these are too high. I can see that he has more cards than I. So I'm just going to go ahead and take a risk, and I'm going to place this 3 down. Cool. Meanwhile, player 1 over here is like, well, fuck. Okay, what's he got? Oh, shit, this is a 10. So ideally, we would both play like a 5 and a 6. I've got a 5. I don't know what he's got. So I'm going to play it safe. I'm going to play this 5. And I go, okay, reveal. Boom, 5 plus 3, 8, plus 10, 18. They make it exactly. And so the shot is made, and then at that point we play out how it works, right? We play out the scene, the results of that. But let's say instead player 2 had still played that 3, but player 2 decided to be a little, or no, actually no, yeah, player 1 decided to be a little riskier and play that 8. That would have paid off. Because 8 plus... Actually, no, that wouldn't have paid off. Let me see. 8 plus... No, it would have paid off. This is 11. This would have been a perfect 21, which would have been a perfect success. Basically, success plus. They'll explain that a little bit further in the book. So, you're almost literally gambling in this game for real. But sometimes it pays off. But had player 1 decided to say... if he'd played the ace, that would have worked out. If he played the ace with that 5, though, yeah, where's that 5? See, if player 1 had decided to be conservative and play that 5, player 2 had decided to take a risk and play that ace, well, it can't be an 11, it has to be a 1, because an 11 would bust. I see you trying to keep a straight face. 11 would bust, so now that is a 16, which would have failed. Except, we did say we have a stat, and we've kind of established that for all these rolls, the relevant stat is going to be 2. So at that point, I can go, hey, wait a minute, I will add my stat, making that an 18, and succeeding in the blind pay. So again, multiple ways to succeed in a blind pay. Not that hard unless you're bad at gambling, which, you might be. Probably should be, for your own sake. Stay in school, kids. Don't go to the casino. Also, straight face. Get it as in a straight flush, as in the card. You should all play Balatro. It's a good game. Let's get back to Gun Slinger. So you get the idea now. So these are the two systems. For everyday checks, you play Go Fish. If you, the Gun and the Slinger, want to do something cool together, you play Blackjack. And that is how the game goes. Now, interestingly, out of nowhere, in the example of play, the first example they give you is how to play without a maestro. So let's kind of just read these examples, because I think these are cool. So in a GM-less game, which again, out of the blue, all of a sudden, the example of play, all of a sudden they go like, oh, by the way, you can play without a GM. Weird place to put this, but sure, I like it. In a GM-less game, blind pays work similarly. The deck's top card is flipped to determine the difficulty, then another is flipped as modifier to the player's total. Instead of setting the difficulty, in the first revealed card subtracts its value from 21 to derive the target. With a 10, 21 minus 10, 11, the duo must total 11 or 21. Wait, what? 21 to derive with a 10 minus 10, the duo must total 11 minus 21. Okay, cool. Okay, I think I get it now. Maestro-less. So then the example of doing this without a maestro. Great, cool. Keep me out of a job. Why don't you? The duo wants to shoot a twist spider, rushing from the tree line. One flips the deck's top card, revealing a 3. So difficulty is 18 minus 21. Why did they not say 21 minus 3 is 18? So that is the difficulty. So you determine the difficulty if you're running Maestro-less. Then they flip the deck's top card, a 5, which is added to whatever the duo plays. Accounting for this, each player plays a single face down, then flip them simultaneously, a 7 and an ace. 7 plus ace plus 3, which is the modifier, equals 23 or 13. So they either bust or fail, failing to shoot the spider either way, which lunges at them. Or with a maestro. The duo want to shoot a twist spider rushing from the tree line. The maestro takes the situation into account. The spider's fast, it's dark. States the difficulty is medium, meaning the duo needs a 16 total between their cards and the modifier card without exceeding 21. The maestro flips the deck's top card, revealing a 5, which is added to whatever the duo plays. Accounting for this, each plays a face-down single from their hand and simultaneously flip them. 5 and a 6. A 5 plus 6 plus 5 modifier equals 16. They just made it, and they blast the twist spider out of the air. So there's your examples of how it works with and without a maestro. Weird place to put it, but we'll take it. And then some additional points. This is where the face moves, the extra stuff that face cards can do. Easy to miss. I think my players always forget. Well, no, actually, no. One player, Dave, always forgets. The other player, Jesus, oh, he saves them. He's got those face cards, and he is ready to use them. But before we do that, bargains. So if a player lacks spare, so what happens? What happens if, for example, player 2 is trying something? He's only got this pair of 3s, and I give him a check that is a 8. He can't make this, not even with his stats. Even with his best stat, the best he can do is a 6. He cannot make that check, which would normally mean he fails. But if a player lacks pairs, can't pay a check's costs, or doesn't wish to in order to retain pairs for future checks or for narrative reasons, then it becomes a bargain. If the player has a face card to give the maestro, the check is a baseline success. So you can also, instead of making a proper bargain, if this was player 2's hand and all he has is 3, he needs to make that 7, that 8, can't make it, he can just pay with a queen. He can just pay with this face card that's here. And he's, okay, cool, it's a baseline success. Don't forget about it, I make it. And cool, you succeed in your action. It's a baseline success, not crazy. So that's one way to use your face cards. But if he didn't have this face card, then there really wouldn't be that much more he could do at that point. So at that point, he would have to do a bargain. So if they cannot or don't want to do that, it becomes a blind pay, resulting in failure or limited success with complications. A bargain's blind pay is never a standard success. There's always a complication. So there is a bargain's blind pay resulting in failure or limited success with complications. So at that point, a bargain, like, there's no way I can do this. Let's make, so at that point you're going, let's make it a blind pay. You can still fail, or you might succeed with complications, but you have to go through a blind pay, which is, it's tricky to do. But it is an option if you really want to push through. You can kind of do a bargain, because no matter what happens, there's going to be complications. That's kind of the bargain that you're making. Hey, Freitas, how you doing, buddy? Welcome in. The cards are packed with the rule. No. These are just standard playing cards. The book, unfortunately, did not bring a sec, so you use your own. These just happen to match the aesthetic, but they are not the official cards of the game. I just literally just picked these up at the CVS. So alas, no, it does not bring a deck because it's not a special deck. It's just a standard deck of cards. But it would be cool. They should make a dedicated. I would love to see, with all the art that we're seeing in this book, I would love to see a dedicated Gun and Slinger deck of cards for the game. I'm surprised that it doesn't exist. Maybe it does. I just haven't looked. Now, face cards. Face cards are special. First thing, face cards do not pair. So if you have a pair of queens, you don't place them down here with your pairs. Face cards are singles. And so again, let's see. Oh, so this is a good hand because we got some examples. You got a king and an ace. So if you have face cards in your hand as a player, there are separate GM moves that you can pull with your own face cards. But as a player, if you have a king, here's one. It is a symbol of luck used to succeed at any check, including on other players. So that one's come in during my games a couple of times where one player will fail and the other player will go like, you know what? No, he doesn't. And just lay down that king and the check succeeds. So just an instant win card. But it's a basic success, but it's a success and it can be used on others. Meanwhile, a queen is a symbol that thrives in every environment and can be paired with any non-face single to produce a pair. So I don't have any queens in my hand right now. Let's see if we can pick one up real quick. Here we go. So let's say I have this queen and I have this 8. And that check would have been difficulty 8 normally. Right? That's right. That's the one I was saying. It was a difficulty 8 and all I had was a pair of 3s. And I go, you know what? Boom, pair 8s. Now that queen matches it, pair 8s, I succeed on my check. So that's one thing you can do. It's basically a wild card. If you have a jack, do I have any jacks? Yay, there we go. If you have a jack, then it is a symbol that knows a good deal when they see it. Play any one time to draw 3 cards, which Jesus once did. He had like 3 jacks in his hand. He's like, boom, later, I draw 3 cards. And then he got like another jack, lay that, got 3 more cards. Before I knew it, he had like 10 cards in his hand. And then a few of those were face cards, which he then proceeded to use to fuck me over. Good times. Much appreciated. And then the aces. So the aces, just like if you hit a perfect 21 on a blind pay, if you draw and play an ace, that is always good to have up your sleeve. Playing one is a major success with an extra effect. So either you gain extra insight, you pose a question to the table and you collaboratively answer it, you gain or maintain the upper hand determined collectively, or your result improves remarkably. So basically it's just success plus super success. And then if your hand is empty, if instead of doing the Jesus thing, you've just been playing one and you run out of cards, you played your last, there we go, you played your last pair of 8s, and you are out of cards. At that point, you draw 3 cards from the deck. I'm making such a mess of these cards. Holy shit. Draw 3 cards from the deck. This needs a shuffle, but hey, hell of a hand. And then just keep going. So that's the system in a nutshell. That is basically how you resolve your actions, how you do things together as the gun and the slinger when you want to do that. Now we're going to see what weird shit you actually can do. This is how you do the weird shit in system, in the game mechanics. Now we're going to take a look at what we actually can do, but it is an hour and a half into the stream, and that is a perfect time for me to, before we jump into the next step, which is going to be, I believe, combat. Yes, we're going to be talking into combat. I'm just going to go ahead and tuck this here as a bookmark. And we'll be back in 5 minutes as I refresh my water, just stretch my legs a moment, pet the cat, and we'll be right back. So bear with me. Thanks so much, as always, for hanging out. What the hell? What? No, I was literally just trying to move a scene from one place to another, but I guess we're back now. Hi, folks. How you doing? Don't play around with OBS while you're live, folks. Don't play around with OBS while you're live. Thankfully, I was just about to come back anyway. Earlier today I went out and I bought some new shoes. And more importantly, I brought back a new box for my cat, in which the shoes were before, and she is very happy about that. But I bought new shoes because yesterday, it is officially now rainy season. It is after Labor Day, fall is starting, and it is now getting increasingly cold and wet outside, ladies. And I discovered, as I discover every year or two when the season arrives, that it is time for new shoes, specifically because the ground is wet, and then I put on shoes and I go outside and my socks get wet anyway. That's how I know I need new shoes. So I went and I got the new shoes, and I'm very proud of myself. But as I was going out, and here's what this story is all about. I'm coming to you now. As I went out, I decided to treat myself a little. I had the whole morning to myself. And I was like, cool, I'm going to go into the city, go into the place where I buy my shoes because they are cheap there in the city. And I'm going to treat myself a little, and I'm going to take the ferry in. Because I live in Astoria, very near to where the ferry going into Manhattan, leaves from. And I looked at the schedule. I was like, yeah, I can just make it. Excellent. So I go and I decide, since it's a nice ride, getting on the ferry is a really nice way to go into Manhattan. It's comfortable, it's inexpensive, it's nice. I like it. It's a little slower sometimes than taking the train, and it does sort of drop you off at some inconvenient places, but for me it's worth it. Specifically because I was going to write that script that I've been threatening to write for the actual dedicated video for Penumbra City, the review, and I didn't want to take my full laptop. I did not want to take my full laptop because, again, at the end of the day, I just wanted to buy some shoes. I don't want to carry a lot of stuff. So I took my little sling bag and I put in this thing, this little toy here. This, which is, I guess it's backwards for the camera, but this little toy here, this beautiful 90s looking thing that I splurged on once in the day. It is horribly overpriced, but also I love it. So, well, normally I love it so much because it is a dedicated, the camera really doesn't, yeah, it's a dedicated, really just wants my face, writing device. It's just got a little keyboard, a pretty good, decent keyboard, a e-ink black and white screen, and no, there's no hacking. This thing is, I mean, it looks like a cyber deck, right? It looks, but it's as low tech as it gets. E-ink screen, keyboard, all it does is input text. It's very bad. It doesn't even have arrow keys. If you look at this semi-transparent keyboard, well, you can barely see it because of all the filters here, but it doesn't even have arrow keys. It's meant to get you into that flow state of writing. Yeah, no, Deku could get into so much. Oh yeah, no, definitely, he's not allowed. But it has Wi-Fi, but all the Wi-Fi is for is just to sync your documents with the cloud. There's barely an operating system on this. There's no apps. There's no actual connectivity. Even if you get it on Wi-Fi, all it does is sync your documents up to like a Dropbox folder, and that's it. You can't do anything more with it. You can barely browse the documents that are on it. Which is not doing a good job of selling it, because don't look up how much these cost. Jesus fuck, I used to have money, folks. I don't know if I've mentioned this, but I used to have money. This is proof of that. Anyway, the whole point of this story is that after all that setup, I grab this thing, I open it on my lap, looking forward to it, and it was completely uncharged. And for what's got to be the first time in my goddamn life, I was not bristling with extra batteries. So after all that, I dragged it out. I didn't get any of that writing done because my device was dead, which sucks because it's just an EX screen, a very simple processor. The battery on it lasts forever. Well, not exactly forever, clearly. Forever minus today. So I just finished charging it. Not that I'm not going to go get back on the ferry. I mean, I could, I guess. Maybe after the stream is over. But all that digression to just simply humanize myself. Make sure, I was going to say pretend I'm not an AI, but I am not an AI. Promise. I promise. Would an AI fuck up this bad? Yes. Yes, I believe we'd already actually seen that it would. So I'm not making a great case for myself. Why other than for vibes in an Alan Wake kind of way? Yeah, no, I mean, that's the thing, though. Like, the only reason for me to take the ferry at this point would be just to ride it all the way down to Wall Street and then ride it all the way back up, just for the vibes, which might not be the worst idea. It actually is really nice. Like, there's something about the motion of the ferry and everything else that makes it a pretty good environment for writing. So I was looking forward to it. That's why I'm frustrated. That's the whole point of the story, is that I'm frustrated because I was looking forward to writing that script finally. I was looking forward to locking in and doing that because as much as I love my home, it's not always a great place for me to lock in. All the things I love are here and they all distract me. So anyway, with that all said, let's just kind of go ahead over here and keep looking at the game, because we were going to look at the combat. So far, the system that we've seen has been very sort of weird and low crunch, right? We're not seeing success levels. We're not seeing a lot of points. It's pretty straightforward. So how do we deal with combat in this game? Wait, let's catch up on chat real quick. The environment you do all the other things is in fact your home. Yeah, exactly. And sorry, I'm afraid let's see. Sorry, which specific device is this? I was in the kitchen myself. Been hearing about this new crop. Well, so this was not that new here. Let me bring it back on camera. Actually, this was a viewer request. Hey, look, I can actually show it off here, and it's not reverse. So it's called the Free Write, and this one specifically is the Free Write Traveler. There's a few different models. All of them horribly expensive. Please don't judge me. But they are just dedicated e-ink writing devices. So opened up, this is what it looks like. Oh, there we go. It's got a beautiful little e-ink screen, power button. This specific transparent model was a limited edition one. I don't even think you can get this one anymore. The normal one is sort of black and white. Still a very handsome device. Did I break it? I might have. I think I didn't finish charging it properly. Come on. I think I might have. I might need a, yeah, there we go. It needs a reset. So it's gonna reboot. Again, it hadn't quite finished charging and I took it off. But you get the idea. And it's also, you know, again, even if you could get this model, as cool as it looks, I wouldn't actually recommend it because that keyboard is nigh unreadable. Unless you're already a touch typist, you might have a bad time with this keyboard. That said, it is very pretty. And if you look up the brand, the Free Write, I hesitate to say that because then you'll see the prices and they are fucking ridiculous. But yeah, it is kind of switched. Yeah, I mean, look at the, compared to the, size of your hand, it's a little bit bigger. It is more, I have so many toys. It's more comparable to the Steam Deck. It's almost exactly, in terms of length and width, the size of the Steam Deck. Of course, it's not quite as thick because of these, but in terms of just normal thickness, actually, there we go. It's about as thick as a Steam Deck. The thing is, the Steam Deck has the handles on the side, but if you played with a Steam Deck, I mean, this one has a case on it, but it's not that much. But if you play with a Steam Deck, that's more your actual size. The device itself the keyboard is, it's more like a laptop size, a proper laptop size keyboard rather than, I mean, this is a full size laptop size keyboard that it brings. The other models that they have are like full on like typewriter style. And there's one that's more of a physical mechanical keyboard with a tiny screen. But see, that's what it looks like. This is an old to-do list that I'd already done like from a month ago. in marketing, trading, and some other stuff, tarot readings and whatnot. So, but you can see what the screen looks like, and again, it's like you're gonna start writing on it, right? It's a little, so you see it's a little slow because it's meant to slow you to kind of just like, you're not even supposed to, you're just writing it out. So writing, oh, god damn it, my whatever. I cannot type with the pressure of people looking at me, but you get the vibes for it. Anyway, it's a good device. It's got its quirks. It's definitely not worth what I paid for it, but the idea of it still always makes me happy. Hey, Himang over on the YouTube side. Hey, welcome in, buddy. It's good to see you again. Yeah, that is so it's not just a keyboard, it's a device. It's never heard of this brand. It looks awesome, vintage. It is. The vibes are immaculate on the device. You can look it up. It's called the FreeWrite. So it's not a keyboard. A downside, I kind of wish it was a keyboard. I wish I could plug it into a computer and use it as a keyboard, but it's a standalone, its own device. My highest typing speed? Oh, I haven't measured it in a while, but it's not great. It's not great. It's less than you would think. Honestly, I think if I average like in the low to mid 70s on a given day, that's probably my best. I'm not at the 100 word per minute range. I'm not that good at the writings, unfortunately, despite having done it my entire life. And when it's under pressure, I get nervous. I immediately start just making mistakes. I'm not really a good touch typist, alas. But I do well enough. I do well enough. All right, now let's get back on track. Hey, it's really good for. Thank you. I mean, again, I have been typing for the bulk of my life, so I'm not bad. I'm just not at the triple digit speeds. All right, so back to the topic of the show today, as we are basically a little over an hour and 45 minutes in. I don't know if we're going to get to the entire game in the hour and a half that I've got left, but then again, there's not that much after it actually. Yeah, at this point it becomes, so actually we're pretty far along, because at this point it becomes the expansions, and those we're only going to touch on very briefly. So I think we might actually get through this. Let's see. So combat and action. Hey, best of luck with it. Thank you, Himang. I will continue to keep it up. So for combat and actions in this game, so combat and Gun Slinger's other action scenes don't follow a strict turn-based format. Again, this is not D&D. It is very much theater of the mind and just kind of making it up as you go along, very rules light. Also, those cards look insane. Oh, the cards, so there's nothing special about these. These are literally, I picked them up at CVS. They're a simple plane of the Stargazer type bicycle cards. I literally picked these up at a corner grocery store. They are very nice considering that they are just from a grocery store. I really like the design on them, and they were coincidentally very close to the color scheme for the game that we were looking today. So that's worked out well, because this game specifically uses cards to do its resolution. So hey, all right. So yeah, as it says here, instead it uses theater of the mind, where combat and action are played out following actions and responses flow, allowing decision making based on what's sensible within the present fiction, rather than worrying about movement, speed, and initiative. Oh, you're from India? We don't have those cool stuff. All right, no worries. Yeah, so I mean, like I said, this was just a regular everyday a grocery store or drugstore that I found them at. So you could probably find something similar if you find any shops that sell just regular playing cards. But yeah, these were not particularly special. They were the same price in the same place as just regular, more kind of boring playing cards. I was just lucky enough to find these. So let's see. As players take action, the situation changes and evolves. Characters present react to outcomes dictated by their own goals. For example, players in a tense saloon may attack a bandit. Outcome dependent, the bandit could go down before counterattacking, or someone across the room may step in if they miss. As with other scenes, the master and players should freely discuss combat and action. If you're unsure what happens next, talk it out. So as you can tell by the rules, the game doesn't really give you a lot of hand holding and mechanics here. It is pretty much just treated as any other check, any other action resolution in the game. Except, of course, if you're shooting the gun, then you're doing a blind pay. Otherwise, you're just using whatever abilities and actions you want to take during combat. So combat is, as opposed to a lot of other games, it's not a separate mode within the game. It is just one more action. It's one more thing that could happen as part of the narrative. See, shooting, killing, and other violent acts. Violence may be simple to enact and reliably terminates conversations, but there's always another way to solve problems. It's important to remember the violence is enacted against a person whose world you're exploring. So they do make a point of that. You're a wanderer. You're coming in from outside. So when you enact violence upon the people that you meet, remember that you came from somewhere else to do that to them. What are your motivations? Why are you doing this, right? And the game is very clear about this. It's not a game about just the Gun Slinger walking in and shooting everybody and going on, because, as I mentioned earlier, when the gun fires, the problem gets solved. The conversation is terminated, as the book says. Like, it is over. The thing that you aim for is dead. That is how the gun works in this game. So always consider other options. You gain next to nothing harming someone or something. And that's kind of like what it's trying to remind you of, that it's not just like in D&D and other games, like combat is the point. Here, combat is not the point. If things have gone to combat, this is probably the worst situation. This is the worst solution to the problem, because you're probably not going to get more information. However, you might be just fighting mindless monsters. There is that. And that can be fun. And actually firing the gun and getting off really cool anime bullshit level effects, very fun. But again, this is not the game. It's not a tactical combat game, and it's not a murder hobo game, which I think is what they're trying to do here. Which says like that they make this point going, when committing an act of violence, always be prepared for consequences. So the gun, and here's where it says it specifically, the gun cannot be fired unless both gun and slinger agree to shoot. Before firing, both draw a card, making any new pairs. Shooting is always a blind pay. Always a blind pay. You cannot shoot the gun with a normal check. I think I did that earlier during the first time I ran this game. I allowed the gunslinger to shoot the gun with just a regular check, and the gun agreed, because it was just for like effect. They were just like shooting a coin out of the air or something. It wasn't an actual combat, and I didn't want to. It didn't have the pressure on it that a blind pay normally would have put. So that was kind of an exception, because I really didn't consider that a real like shot from the gun. That was just a magical effect. That was just them showing it off. Yeah, rule of cool applied, exactly. And then that's how I would rule it too. Again, if you're doing like just gunplay in terms of like gun tricks like you would see at a Wild West saloon show, you know, with the family and all that stuff, then, you know, assuming that the gun, whoever's playing the gun, agrees to allow themselves to be used in such a demeaning manner for the gun, then yeah, then I'll just let the slinger just make a check to see if they get the effect that they're looking for, instead of turning it into a full blind pay. But in combat, if you're shooting the gun with the intention of defeating an enemy, always a blind pay. Your baseline attacking with the gun or otherwise is medium difficulty, so either a 5 to 8 on a check. But situation dependent, can be easier or harder. When players are attacked, they must pass checks with the same baseline to avoid being hit. So again, just like you know, your baseline is sort of like the difficulty level of the enemy, of the monster. So again, monsters, you know, enemies don't have stats, but you know, this is how you would make it. Like a 5 is an easier monster to beat than a baseline 8 monster, especially since we're talking about checks, not blind pays. And likewise, a baseline 8 enemy is going to be harder to avoid. This is not a game where the maestro is drawing cards necessarily to take actions. They are just declaring actions, and the players have to react. So we've seen that before in a few other games, where instead of the GM rolling to hit a player, they just say like, player, you are being attacked, roll to dodge, or roll to defend, and that is how that works as well. Then a single hit defeats a regular enemy. So no hit points to keep track of. Just if you hit the enemy, they take the hit, they go down. But the twist touched or those protected by armor or other means may take more. It's very much left up to the GM's decision. When defeating an enemy with gunfire, the gun draws a card. Otherwise, the slinger draws. So there is a reward mechanic, a slight reward mechanic to defeating an enemy when combat breaks out. So whichever one of the gun or slinger defeated that enemy gets to draw a card as a reward. So there is that. Harm for the slinger. Now the gun itself is, I don't remember if it says so. I feel like it does at one point basically say that the gun is all but indestructible and invulnerable, but they're also pretty limited. So 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. But the slinger is a human. They can take damage. So harm for the slinger. Whenever the slinger fails to avoid a hit, they mark 1 scrape. If all their scrapes are marked and they're hit, they invent and write down a situationally appropriate major injury. Exceeding 2 major injuries is fatal. So that's how you do take damage. And the scrapes are actually, let's look at the character sheet real quick for the slinger. There we go. So you can see here, oh, it's kind of shiny, but there you go, scrapes. So you see you can get up to 3 scrapes, and once you get 3 scrapes, they go away and they turn into a major injury. Once you get 2 major injuries, then at that point, if you ever get a third one, so 2 major injuries, and then that third scrape on top of those, which means you've taken a serious beating, because you only take 1 hit. You only take 1 scrape, so that means you've been hit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times before you go down permanently. But you can go down. All right, let's see. So death, speaking of death in a twist-marred world, death isn't always final. So even if all that happens and you go down, if you're really attached to your characters and their collaborative story, maybe you strike a bargain with something beyond your understanding. Every time you're twisted, okay, so the emphasis is different. Every time you're twisted somehow until you're no longer yourself. These should be so sufficiently major and impactful that you're unsure if you want to strike the deal. Resurrection is never as simple as a hand wave or snap of the fingers. So when the slinger resurrects, they permanently mark one of their twist track's points. This can never be cleared, so use red and scratch it up, making sure you remember. Additionally, the table must decide how the twist physically transforms you. This isn't necessarily negative, but should be strange and noticeable without effort disguising it. For example, a transformed eye with stars inside, cat-like ears twitching at every noise, a marked arm with a growing curse, or backwards bent legs ready to spring. So you can, if you die, and I like this, I really like this concept, that even if you go down in a hail of gunfire, and it would have to be a hail of gunfire to take the slinger down, you can make a deal. You can make a deal with the twist, because once we see the gunslinger character themselves here, we'll see that you are, as it says here, twist touched. So the gun is related to magic, the slinger is related to the twist, and they both have a way to sense each other's fucked upness, which is absolutely great, and I love it. But you can come back. So again, imagine that scene. You've set it up. The gun and the slinger got trapped in the middle of the street. People on both sides, on both levels of buildings around them, just bandits popped up while they released some kind of twist dog to pin the gunslinger down so they couldn't run, and they just unleashed on them. Bam, bam, hit after hit after hit, and the gunslinger goes down, still holding the gun in their hand as they fall back on the ground. The bandits begin to cheer. And then, with the twist and the snapping of bone, the hand that is holding the gun grows monstrous and clawed with strange scales shimmering and twisting as the slinger rises up like the goddamn Undertaker. and goes back into the fray. Fuck yeah. Fuck yeah. Does that not sound like a fun game? I would do that. I would definitely. Like, I love that. I love that because you're telling a story. And especially in this game, the story that you're telling about the gun and the slinger, like, you can't just swap one out and another. Like, these are the characters. So I like that there's a way, not without consequence, but I love those moments. So fuck yeah. Trade and favors. So we've seen this before with other games like in Penumbra City. Even honestly, I mean, I guess it didn't matter in Blazing Him because it's not that kind of game. And kind of didn't matter that much in Cantrip. But definitely Penumbra City, it was also a system where money no longer exists. We seem to have a topic with that. I wonder what it is about indie game designers imagining worlds where money no longer exists. I wonder where that comes from, right? So getting hung up on tracking dollars and donuts minutiae can really slow down play and disperse focus. Gun Slinger isn't about that. You have sufficient money to remain fed and hydrated, don't worry about it. But finding a place to sleep or securing transportation may be a bit difficult. For anything beyond that, you'll need to trade something of value or do a favor, so you can almost always get what you want or need for a favor, capital F. Everyone has something they need done, whether cleaning the barn or guarding a caravan, and prefer favors to cash. You can always offer a favor instead of money or goods. Depending on the task, you may not need to do it now, and depending on who you're asking, they may wait to define it, holding it over your head. Favors are a major IOU, and reneging one or any agreement is a big deal. So, you know, pretty much a reputation economy, kind of. Tools and trinkets. So I like this. I like lists of items. If anything, I would like even more items. I am a sucker for lists and tables, and I'm looking forward to reviewing one of those games that is just all lists and tables. In fact, I have, of course, I'm going to get slightly sidetracked because that is who I am as a person. I'm going to hang out off camera here for a second as I pull this book from my shelf without causing everything else to collapse. So at some point, I want to do this one, the weird, because this was not a game. This was a supplement from Monty Cook Games, right? Yeah, this is a Monty Cook. Yeah, this is a Monty Cook joint. You see it right there. This one's not a game. This one is literally just tables after tables after tables after tables after fucking tables for hundreds of pages of just high weirdness. Well, high weirdness, low weirdness, cozy weirdness, scary weirdness, spooky weirdness. I just want to spend like at least an hour's worth of a stream just rolling on these tables to see what comes up and making up ideas with folks in chat. Like, that honestly just sounds like a good time. So that, look forward to that one. Probably next week, because it's already Friday, and this will be, well, I can't guarantee this will be the last stream of the week, but it's most likely going to be the last stream of the week. I might do a little bit of streaming on the weekend, but I have a feeling that weekend streams are going to be more me playing video games rather than talking tabletop RPGs. Which is, I hear, a thing that people online do. So, because I've got a couple of games I want to try out, so, and, you know, might as well be social with it. But in the meantime, my sidetrack, yeah, both are acceptable. Thank you. I actually want to play that game. What's the game? Shadows of Doubt. It's been kind of hitting. Like a few streamers are playing it, and I just saw a little bit. And it looks like a good time. It looks like the kind of game that you can just kind of get deep in and make up stories. And it looks like fun. I really want to try that one. If not, I also have a couple of those like Find the Difference kind of games, but like observation duty games, which I love, even though I suck at. So you got it yesterday, I this. How are you liking it? I've heard good things. I've seen good things. Yeah, Shadows of Doubt. I've heard good things. I might pick it up for myself, maybe even tonight, and see if maybe I play it a little bit over the weekend. But yeah, let me know what you think of it. So This book, this part, like again, distracted me over to the giant list of stuff from Monty Cook Games. But point is, I like lists of stuff. That said, this stuff doesn't really have it's very much flavor. Again, this game is rules light, it's vibes heavy, and while it does give you some examples of things that you can take, this stuff just exists in the world. There's no stats for it or anything like that. So you haven't heard of it, finally got into Baldur's Gate 3, and while the 510 is in Japan this week, oh, the SO, sorry, I completely misread the what I was looking at 510. Oh, never, please, tell your SO they are not a 5 out of 10, they're a 10 out of 10. I don't get me in trouble with them. The SO, Jesus Christ, it's in Japan this week. You have time to kill. Cool. So yeah, no, dude, Baldur's Gate is Baldur's Gate 3. Baldur's Gate 3 is Baldur's Gate 3. Holy shit. I exist in awe of that, the fact that that game exists and got made. It's incredible. I never thought we'd get a D&D game that really did that good a job of like doing what it needs to do. Big fan, big fan. Hope you're enjoying it. Let's see. Bad decision. I want to pick everything up, inspect everything, find all the fingerprints so no murders get solved. Fuck yeah, that sounds like my jam. That sounds like my jam. Again, I've seen gameplay. I've seen people play it. I at first I didn't think it was going to be up my alley, but then I saw some gameplay and I am excited. I want to play it. I want to play that game because yeah, it's going to get me. It's going to get me. And Strobus Low, she's also a fan to fan, but your secret is safe with me for now. Thank you. I appreciate that. You can go ahead and hold that over my head, Sword of Damocles. Jesus Christ. All right, so anyway, point is, list of stuff doesn't have a huge effect on game, but at the same time, it's cool, and you can use it for the vibes and the setting. I like the art, and I like some of the examples that it gives you, because it gives you examples of stuff that are tools. Tools are mundane items that anyone can buy and make, so rope, rations, minor like magical boons, treasure maps, armor, repair tools, or just like a really cool lighter. Look at this one. This is a real cool lighter. I like this little lighter because it's got this switch which lets you go from one little thing to two little things, like so. That's one, and then you can switch over to two like that. See, just like a really cool lighter. So that's in the game. That's in the game. But there's also trinkets. Trinkets are special, often magical equipment. They're not always rare, and their power varies, but they're almost always unique with potentially only a few in existence. So tools are stuff, and they can be magical, but they're just everyday tools. A hammer is a hammer is a hammer. Trinkets are funky, which I like. I like the funk in my games. And so it's got some cool examples, like a beast summoning coin, runestone that unlocks door, a small wooden game piece that speaks, a twist-oriented compass, a truth-revealing eyeglass, a ghost translator. So it's got some fun equipment. I would have liked even more. I think I want to go again. I want to play with the twist, with the weird book at some point, and just create stuff. So now this was all system. Now we're gonna meet our characters. We're gonna meet the gun. We're gonna meet the slinger. So let's go ahead and take a look at them. So pre-game. So how do we set up the game? How are we going to play? Pre-game prep. Maestro and players review the prompt questions, establishing some backstory and setting information. We'll look at those. Maestro and players discuss long and short-term aspects of interest. So basically session 0 stuff. Maestro uses these answers on the rulebook to outline a scenario for adventure through. Session 0 stuff. Preparing the players. One player selects the slinger, the other the gun. Can't get any simpler than that. Then players print and fill out their respective character sheets, writing in their stats and choosing a unique ability. And then preparing the table. Remove the jokers, shuffle and cut a standard 52-card deck. Place the jokers face up in the maestro's cache. So the jokers are interesting. The jokers are here because they just exist there to be a threat. I really don't use them when I've run the game that much, because I just kind of throw things at the players. I'm not following the system that I'm supposed to follow. Guilty. But the jokers are there as a threat for the maestro to play, because when I play a joker, and they'll tell me later, but basically I as a maestro can play the joker to say that the thing that is hunting you, we'll establish that later, the sorry, the slinger is being hunted. That is just generally a fact, that there is a thing that is hunting you. The thing that is hunting you gets closer or arrives, and I can do that twice. So those are meant to be there as threats. They are there as threats to be acted upon, and I am an occupying force. The Maestro deals each player a 5-card hand, then draws their own. Players place any pairs face down in their cache. And then the remaining deck is face down in the middle of the play area within everyone's reach. So basic setup. Deal out hands. So here's the setup questions. So this is what you're going to do. This is the part that makes the fact that there isn't that much specific setting given to you before. You'll notice again that, you know, this book right here, it ends like this is, yeah, at this point here, this is really the game. Everything else after that is expansions and extra stuff that is not part of Gun and Slinger. This is all just variations on the game, which are very cool. But Gun and Slinger is basically just half this book. So there is not a lot, there's not a huge amount there of setting, and yet we've been given these very clear images and tones. But the game gets away with that because here is where that world gets created. You as a group sit around the table, and honestly, during my gameplay, we had such a good time doing this specifically, going through these setup and answering these questions. And I've been able to get a lot out of that. I've been able to use that in the adventures to create for that. So, for example, there are some questions that are specific that are for everyone at the table, including the Maestro. And then there are questions specifically for the Slinger, for the gun, and for the gun and Slinger together to answer. And by answering all these questions, you A, create the world as you go, but also B, they're good questions. They help you get a really good feel for what this game is meant to be. So for example, questions for the table. The twist continues to be an why am I stumbling over these big words today? The twist continues to be an omnipresent, slow, world-changing force. Besides the night beasts, what new and hostile force was introduced in the last decade? How has daily life changed? Next question. In the last few years, the ancient force magic has resurfaced. In what form? Is it common? How is it used? So again, you get to define, like, the game tells you, it establishes a fact. The twist continues to be omnipresent. In the last few years, the ancient force magic has resurfaced. The twist recently destroyed the region's largest city. What major landmarks remain, implying that there are landmarks that are gone? The gun is magical, sentient, and speaks. How common is this? You can play a game where everybody's guns are sentient, just like you can play a game where the gun is the only one, and that's entirely up to you. People occasionally find simple stone relics, orbs, spheres, and pyramids with glowing inlays. How do they feel? What is their theoretical purpose? I love these little setting questions because this stuff is never touched upon again, which normally I would complain about. Normally I would not be a fan of that, just introducing a concept and then never actually going into it. But specifically for this game, yeah, like there are simple stones, orbs, spheres, and they have glowing inlays. Fuck it, sure there are. Do we know what they mean? We're gonna figure that out together. There is no answer given. That is for the gun and the slinger to figure out or not figure out. It could just be like flavor, but it is an established fact, which I dig. This is very evocative of Stephen King's Dark Tower, right? It is. You are this gunslinger traveling, wandering alone. This is a game for 2 players and a GM. You do not have a 4th, 5th, 6th player. There's not a party. You don't have a party as you're adventuring. You are a solo gun and a solo slinger. The gun just happens to be sentient, you know? So yeah, it is very evocative. You are traveling, you have something you're looking for. We're going to look at those questions now. For example, for the slinger, in the last few months, something awoke and now hunts you. What is hunting you? What? Have you seen it? Are you aware? So out of character, that you know something's hunting you. In character, do you know something's hunting you? Have you seen it? But something is hunting you. The twist, marked and changed you. How are you marked? What new ability does it grant? how must you care for it? So again, you're already marked, you're already twisted, you're already something slightly different than human. You have a trinket from the home you no longer have. What is it and what does it do? And what does it mean to you? And finally, what are you seeking and what do you fear? So again, these are very evocative questions that are really forming an image of who the gunslinger is and what they've gone through. Meanwhile, for the gun, which is interesting because you're playing a relatively inanimate object, for the gun, you weren't always this cold steel body. Who or what were you? What do you remember? How does your body feel? And I love that that's the very first question they tell you, like, you've got a backstory. You weren't always a gun. Like, starting off from there. You may be a weapon, but you're more than that. Besides violence, what else are you a tool for? You're directly connected to magic's global flowing lines and fields. How can only you use them to affect your surroundings? So again, I like that. The slinger is touched and marked by the twist, but the gun is directly connected to magic. And these are two separate and opposed forces. But together, the two of them can do more. And finally, what do you want more than anything else, and what do you fear? And then for the gun and slinger together, for the pair of them. Where was the gun found? How long have you wandered together? What do you two disagree about? And how does sharing each other's thoughts feel? And I love that one comes in at the end, because that's when it hits them both. Like, wait, what? Our thoughts, yes, your minds are connected. You have a telepathic mind sharing connection to the gun. It's only introduced finally there. And then once you finish fleshing out your world, you should collectively discuss your adventures. Focus. And it's got some cool ideas here. So like do you wish to defeat the thing that hunts, cure the twist, restore the gun's original body? These and more are all doable. But Gun and Slinger isn't designed for endless play, and you should have a tangible end goal. Feel free to explore the world, tell stories, go on side quests, and even tackle those other suggestions. The end goal's point is keeping players on the same page for the game's focus, and as they progress, to let them know as the end approaches. If you finish one goal but wish to continue, take a break and return for a Season 2 adventure. Let time pass, speaking of days, weeks, or even years later, because again, this game wants to be very episodic. So now, finally, with all that built, let's actually take a look at what the gun and the slinger can do. And how are we doing on time? We've got 45 minutes left. I think we can get through both of those, and then after that, it's going to be the Maestro's Toolkit, which I don't know how far we're going to get. It's not that long. We might just do this. Let's see. Let's see how far we go. The gun. So this was, again, I love the very concept that you're literally just playing this magical sentient object. This is your character. You are trapped in a body other than your own. Cold, furious steel of violence and judgment. It is not your home. You may dislike it. No, yeah, it is not your home. You may dislike it, but you occupy it. You're tied to a slinger, a wanderer seeking something. Perhaps they'll help you find your own desires. Being a gun is strange. It's almost isolating, being unable to affect the world normally. You can still move things and speak, but it's still strange. As the gun, you're an extension of the slinger's arm, executor of your joined wills, and tied to the world's remaining magic in a manner rendering you capable of manipulating it. Your body was designed to bring death and pain. Will you merge wholly or become something new? So as the gun, you can interact with the world through the ethereal plane of magic. You lack arms and legs, but you aren't completely helpless without the slinger. Being bound to magic, you can see magic's ley lines and energies. Using it, you can interact with mundane and supernatural things simply by focusing. You can talk to inanimate objects, move physical things, and gauge people's emotions. You can also move by blinking, which is not always accurate. To blink, flip the deck's top card. Whoop. Well, that's a king, so that's a 10. Its value determines how many feet you can teleport. So that's, blink, 10 feet. Blink, another 10 feet. Holy shit, blink, 10 feet, 10 feet, 40, 50, 60 feet, 70 feet. What the hell? I need to shuffle these. 77 feet. There we go. Look at that. Just blink after blink after blink. But that is how you move around as a gun. It is inaccurate. You can't just decide to blink 2 feet over. You're going to blink either 77 or whatever comes up on that card. But I do love that it's this like just random blip, 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 blip. Your connection to magic. But however, you are a magic gun. And the way I've interpreted this, we're going to see it here. Well, actually, let's read it and then I'll tell you how I interpret it. So unlike the Slinger, you are wholly connected to the world's magical remnants, not the twist. Your connections, nature, and your magic are shaped by runes carved into you. A rune of tricks and treason could allow cheating at cards, while a rune of protection and peace could block a bullet in midair. Connection is used when working any magic and is not limited to your abilities. Anything you'd like to do, provided it's connected to your runes, is accomplished spending connection. Not every action done with connection requires a check, but the maestro may request one for something more involved or acting unnoticed. And you regain connection by resting, that brings back half your connection, or spending a single, that is spending a card from your hand and regaining its value. So it's pretty easy to regain connection as a gun. You're meant to be using your magic for pretty much everything because that's how you interact with the world, through magic. I love this. Always handle guns safely, keep them pointed in a safe direction, such as towards the thing that hunts. Your connection strength. So when you can work, while you can work magic, your powers aren't limitless. So okay, here we go. How do you keep them from just saying, okay, well, I fix everything with magic all the time? At least not at first. You begin with limited magical strength, growing stronger as you accumulate advancements. Here are the levels, along with the capabilities. So you start off limited, which is basic magic for very simple things. Unlocking a door, creating a distraction, overloading an electronic device, extinguishing a light. Complex magic, complicated magic of greater scope. So, for example, creating an effective illusion, operating tech or magic devices, see the unseen. Or substantial, the strongest, permit larger scale, complex magic, but likely requires a check, such as catching a falling building, blinking people out of harm's way, or blinking alongside the Slinger. So, I like that basically it is just ask the gun, just tell me what you want to do. And if it fits your runes, which we will see now, cool. Well, you can probably do it. Spend some connection. Let's make it happen. There is a mechanism, I think, for spending more connection to, if you can only normally do limited, you can push yourself to do complex or substantial by, I believe, spending more connection. I think we'll see that in a minute. You can perform magic. There we go. Yeah, you can perform magic beyond your current connection strength by spending 2 extra connection per additional strength level. So if you start off only being able, which you will, start off only being able to do limited, you can spend an additional 2 connection in addition to whatever you're already spending, which is probably 1, to be able to pull off a complex effect, or you can spend a total of 4 additional connection, 2 for this and 2 for this, to be able to pull off something crazy. So I do like that even at the beginning, if needed, if you have enough points and look at how much connection you can have, you can start with a substantial amount. I believe it's 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, yeah, you can start with like 10 connection. You can push yourself, you can do that push, and even from the start, pull off a really substantial, really heroic level of magical feat. So again, I like that. I like being able to give players, even from the start, the resources to excel, to do something amazing and memorable, if they have the resource and if they're able to do them. So I like that. I very much like that approach. And then your spirit provides you with a unique pool on magic. Choose an ability, which will cost 1 connection. So you're going to check one of these 3. Basically, there's 2 character classes in this game. There's Gun and there's Slinger. Those are your 2 character classes. But each one has 3 sort of variations. And the difference on them is right here. Everything else is going to remain the same no matter which kind of agent you pick. So for example, the Gun can pick to be an agent of trickery, an agent of fury, or an agent of peace. Because an agent of trickery inverts the worlds with their connection. An agent of fury channels their rage, birthing flame where they choose. Or an agent of peace will surround someone or something with their protective magic. So each one of these, depending on which you pick, will give you the ability to do this thing, to do something special by spending 1 connection. For example, the trickery one can manipulate the system a little. You can pick a random card from the deck, causing chaos. Higher card values are beneficial. Lower values turn the chaos against you. If a face card is drawn, put it at the bottom and redraw. So Agent of Trickery is literally spend one connection and fuck it, here we go. Wild shit. Oh, Joker. Let's cut this deck. Here we go. Flip the card. What happens? That's an 8. That's a high. High is good. Lower values are against you. So just chaos breaks out. Magical chaos. This is a thing that you're doing. Magical chaos breaks out, and it is generally in your benefit. If you had done that, ace would be a reroll. 9 would be very good. Here we go. A 4 would be a little bit more of a mixed result, while a 2 is chaos that you're not going to be happy with. I'm still probably, you spent the points, I'm still going to give you overall good stuff, but it's definitely going to be with a catch, whatever you're trying to pull off. Agent of Fury, you can pick a random card from the deck. The card's value is a pool you divide between targets and distance in feet. Targets nominated begin to supernaturally heat. If flammable, they ignite. If a face card is drawn, put it at the bottom and redraw. So here's a little bit of a thing that strikes me. The game very much says, like, you know, it's all theater of the mind and just general ranges describe it out. But then it specifically has things that are in ranges of feet. So at that point, the GM or somebody has to decide how many feet away your target is, because that is, so pick a random card from the deck. So draw a card, we got a 6. So now we've got a 6, so that is a pool. Now I divide that between targets and distance. So I can hit one target that's 5 feet away, or 5 targets that are right next to me, or 2 targets that are 4 feet away from me, up to 4 feet away. Like that's how this would work. And then these people would basically catch on fire, which, cool. But Trickery is wild. And Peace, which I believe is what Dave chose, is honestly the most immediately useful one, which is pick a random card from the deck. Its value is how many seconds the visible target is shielded from any damage. If a face card is drawn, put it at the bottom of the card. So again, the fact that it all of a sudden starts counting in seconds is weird. Because this is, okay, so 9 seconds, 6 seconds protected from damage, 10 seconds protected from damage. Those were some nice pulls, sure. But again, since combat is just kind of narrative, you know, if you even pull off like 2 seconds, well, that's the 2 seconds that were needed to shield from that hit. So it feels more like a flavor thing, because the actual distance or the actual seconds don't matter unless in the narrative it matters. If you are up against like a machine gun that just releases bullets non-stop for 6 seconds each time before it needs to pause for a moment to reload, which would be a thing that I, as the maestro, would have to somehow establish, then at that point it matters if my shield covers 9 seconds or the 6 exactly, or only 2, for example. Then at that point it's like, oh wow, you start shielding them, but you know, they still take a hit because your shield wasn't powerful enough or whatever. So it's a weird sort of specificity added to these in a system that very much eschews that level of specificity, right? So it feels a little weird given the system, but other than that, you know, sure, it's manageable. It's just something to keep in mind. So here's your character sheet. This is what you would print out. And again, the big reminder here, you cannot be fired unless you and the slinger agree. And it gives you, you know, just a quick overview of the type of agent that you can be and the things you can do. So this same stuff that is over here is also covered in the character sheet. I always appreciate a character sheet that gives you the bulk of the information you need to have. And then there's your basic stats: embodiment of magic, sharp for a gun, and just a little bit me. And you can put your stat there, or your rating for each one. And then if you gain additional stats later on, and I believe the book does explain a little bit, I think in this tiny font that you can barely read, it explains what you can spend braids. Braids are basically XP, but also they work for re-rolls and they let you do stuff. There's specific rules about what you can spend braids on, but they're basically for advancement. And then there is a rune on your barrel. What is it? So the runes are the ones that determine the kind of magic that you use. You start with one set of runes: fire and fury, tricks and treason, protection and peace, presence and prosperity, guidance and guile, strength and service. As you progress, you can get additional runes. And basically, anytime that you as the gun want to use your magic is specifically tied to these runes. So if, for example, you start only with the guidance and guile rune, which I believe is the one that Dave started with, then anytime you're going to use magic, you kind of have to justify. It's a little bit of like, if you played Mage, the Ascension, you're prepared for this. But otherwise, you need to kind of justify how the magic effect that you want to do, the thing that you want to do with magic, fits the sort of the theme and vibe of the runes that you have. And that can be a challenge. That can definitely be a challenge for some players. So something to keep in mind. It helps if you played Mage the Ascension. It helps if you got a GM that is imaginative. It can help you kind of work through that. But it is a challenge to play, just in the same sense that playing a Mage in Mage the Ascension can be a bit of a challenge. But also it can be a lot of fun. Honestly, a lot of the fun in games can come from those limitations, from going, okay, my only rune is guidance and guile. How do I use that to get us out of this situation? So I like that. This is for tracking your connection, and it shows you how you can do, what you can spend on. And then here's how you mark your magical strength. You start with limited, and lets you mark up how powerful you are, and the basic rules on how to blink around. And that's basically, that's it. That's the gun. You can perceive magic. You can do magic. No, sorry. You can perceive. You can perceive magic. Yes, you can see magic. You can do magic, but you are disconnected entirely from the twist, which is interesting. You're a being, a creature of pure magic. Meanwhile, the Slinger, not so much. Slinger's all about the twist. About being, well, not all about the twist, but they are marked by the twist. So let's go ahead and check them out. The Slinger. You are a wanderer without a home, seeking something in the twisted, capital T, twisted world. At some point, the twist marked you, granting supernatural abilities and strange senses. You must be careful with them, lest you succumb to the twist's thrall. Being marked, you're hunted by a strange, horrifying creature the twist designed. You may not know initially, but the thing that hunts, all capital, the capital thing, capital that, capital hunts, is after you, and you alone. You are torn between the strange and the mundane. Will you give in to unnoble powers before finding answers? Your twist-touched nature. So, as the Slinger, you start relatively clean with manageable twist marks on your soul, but much as you'd like to maintain that, it's simply unlikely. You use twist to protect yourself, to utilize your words and activate special abilities. And when it says words here, it's with a capital W. That is a game term. As your twist track fills, you lose yourself to the twist, never to be freed, transform into a monster, abandoning the gun. This is functionally permanent death. So, as opposed to the gun has their connection, and they get to regain it pretty easily. It's not hard to regain connection. Just you get it from overnight, from resting. You can spend singles to regain it, and almost everything you're gonna do as a gun, because you are a gun. You need to spend magic for almost everything. It's gonna cost you connection. You're meant to be spending connection back and forth. The Slinger, on the other hand, every time they spend twist, it's kind of a permanent spend. There are ways to remove twist. It says it right here. You can remove marked twist by resting, performing selfless acts, or spending braids, spending XP to remove your twist. But it's harder work to get rid of it. And if you accumulate too much twist, you're fucked. You become a monster. The twist overtakes you. Casting back on chat. Flashbacks to Mage. Took a number of sessions to get used to it, but it can be a good time. Yeah. That's the thing. Mage is very much, how do I make philosophical, philosophical discussions with my friends while we're all high? How do I make that into a game? That's basically what Mage the Ascension is. So. Again, this is how you activate you activate twist, you let the twist mark you, and that's how you activate your word abilities, which are very potent. but also, the temptation to use them is there, and if you use them too much, you're going to be broken. You're going to become permanently twisted, and you're going to lose your character. So it's a different approach to your power. But also, you have hands and opposable thumbs, so it does balance out just a little bit. So being marked by the twist changed you physically and psychically. How does it manifest? Well, you have a sense that others don't. What isn't? So you can either have a sense for the weather, a sense for magic, or a sense for evil. So you literally have a supernatural sense. Honestly, a sense for magic is usually the one that most people pick. And then an ancient word is etched into your mind. What is it? This is a word that reflects, predicts, and aids you. You can use it by gaining 1 twist. The use's form is mutable and determined when used. So it can be a word of guidance, a word of hiding, a word of courage, a word of fear, a word of rage, or a word of hope. So this is not that different from the runes and the magic of the gun, except almost more primal is the way I look at it. And because of the cost, because it requires you to gain 1 twist, and twist is like a more serious thing than connection. Connection will just come back. It doesn't hurt you to have too much or anything. So the way I kind of interpret this is, and the gun's magic is specifically, there are defined limits to what it can do and ways to spend more power to make it more powerful and complex and reach out more. This is more primal. It's just a word, and you let the twist into you. And so I will generally let the slinger get away with a lot. It's still very much okay, tell me how you use your word of fear or your word of rage or your word of guidance to do the thing that you want to do. And then gain the twist, and I will let you get away with some crazy shit. I think Jesus had the word of, I want to say rage, most likely. And he at one point basically just gained the twist and then described how he literally unhinged his jaw and like devoured an enemy whole or something like that. It was crazy. And yeah, sure. Gain the twist, let that word overtake you, become a raging beast and do something absolutely inhuman. I love it. That is the slinger. You can pull on your ties to the twist to perform strange magical feats. Choose 1 move. Using it adds 1 twist. So you also have like the gun has these things with the agents, the agencies. So too does the slinger have their tricks, their twists, their magical feats. And so for the slinger, you get to choose one of these 3. You can be a lucky one, which means you can call upon the twist to act as Lady Luck, pushing things just a bit further when things are rough, which in game terms means that when you place yourself in danger, you may pay with 2 mismatched cards from your hand. Their total is a pool of points to improve checks until exhausted or danger passes, which is wild. Because, for example, let's say that your hand is, these 4 cards. And you can basically take 1 twist and take your 2 biggest cards, this 10 and this 6, they're mismatched cards, lay them down and go, I now have a pool of points, 16 points from those 2, because their total is a pool of points to improve checks until exhausted or danger passes. So you're using this in a fight or in a dangerous situation. So long as this lasts, I have 16 points that I can use to just add to my actions, to my checks, until they're done or the danger passes. That is incredibly powerful. So again, as I said, the twist is more rarely used, and the potential penalties are bigger. But because of that, I definitely let the player pull off some bigger feats when it is spent. The other example is now you don't. You pull the twist close, gathering it and shifting your form into something unseen. It's basically invisibility. Pick a random card from the deck. Its value is a number of minutes you can turn invisible for. So again, look at the gun, pulls a card, and their effect lasts that many seconds. The slinger takes twist, pulls a card, that effect lasts how many minutes. And the desperate gamble. You make a bet with the twist. If you win, you'll gain power. So you and the maestro or other player each plays a card from your hand face down, then reveal them. If yours is a higher value, you succeed at the current check and draw a card. both spent cards are discarded. So it's basically a way to go like, I don't have any pairs for this, but I do have a 10 in my hand, so fuck it. Spend the twist, desperate gambit, lay that 10, and the GM, hopefully has less than a 10 and laid it down, and then you succeed anyway, even if you didn't have a pair, and you pull a card, but you did pull on your twist. And here's the character sheet for the Gunslinger. A little bit less art, but same basic things. You've got your info, you've got your selection of which one of these 3 abilities you've chosen, and the description of what it does. You've got your basic stats: I've been around, good in a fight, light on my toes. And unlike the gun, which is effectively indestructible, does not have health points, you do. So here's how you track your scrapes and your injuries, the info for spending your braids, the twist, you mark how it's touched you, and you mark your twist track. So keep that in mind. You only have 5 marks, and if you mark that 5th one, you are fucked. So you have a more limited tool, or pool rather, to work with, but when you pull the twist, it's always a memorable event. And then mark down the word that is etched into your mind. And finally, what is the sense? So basically all the stuff that you decided here, that's it. It's just marked on the character sheet. Pretty straightforward. Nothing crazy there. How we do advancement, not going to go into all the details because there's a lot here. But basically, braids are your XP. You gain braids, and then you can spend them for different things, such as creating a new trinket or tool. Or for 10 braids, you can give yourself a new stat. Or for 15 braids, you can raise a stat by 1. Or you can, that's how you gain the braids. So survival, you gain the braid. Whenever you fail a check, you gain braids. I don't remember if I've been handing those out to my players. I hope I do. And of course, as a master, you can hand them out as needed. The gun specifically can spend braids to raise their magic, the connection level, and strengthen it, while the slinger can specifically spend braids to gain new senses, to raise their twist capacity, to remove twist marks, or to discover a new word. So lots of ways to grow your character and give them additional aspects by spending those braids. And that's it. We made it through all the player-facing stuff. Those are the characters. I hope y'all like the idea of playing one of these two. Now we're going to just very quickly go over the Maestro's Toolkit and see if in the 15 minutes, 20 minutes that we have, I can give a very quick look at the expansions. We're not going to go into full detail. So, Maestro's Toolkit. This is a really well-written, and that's part of why I'm not going to go into detail on this, because this is some really good GM advice that if you like it, you can either pause the stream and read it later, or you can get the book. But there is a lot of pretty good advice on how to move the action along, the kind of game that you want to do, how to determine the difficulty for something, how and where to give your players things, how to keep them moving, some examples for the cards, some additional explanation on what to do with the cards, and certain things that the Maestro can do. So you, as a Maestro, you will have cards in your hand, right? It's going to have a huge hand for no reason, just so I have cards to pull from here for the examples. And so if you have a face card, you can play them. If I play a king, that lets me separate the gun and the slinger. So I get to just say that and then introduce an element. But it's a way to introduce plot elements and twists into the game and be able to kind of just like blame it on the cards rather than on you. Go like, boom, this happens. Rather than just I, the GM, want to specifically say, fuck you. It's not, sorry, the cards have fucked you. You are now separated, and host, this is what happens to get you separated. But it happens. You cannot like deny it. If a queen is played, tell me I did. Okay, here we go. If a queen is played, then the gun and slinger lose something valuable. If a jack is played, someone receives a major injury. Doesn't have to be the slinger. Could just be someone else in the scene. And if I play an ace, then just immediately raise the stakes. Just up the danger of the scene, which is a fun time. And how you do it is determined by the suit. So, for example, immediately raise the stakes, that's diamonds, so the twist. Raise the stakes by using the twist somehow. If I'm going to, someone receives a major injury, again, diamonds, so stakes. Let's say that is instead the one that we're missing, which is spades. So let's say this was spades, then someone receives a major injury from the antagonist. So whoever the antagonist is, I bring them into the scene and they fuck somebody's day up. If we were to play a clubs card, that is dealer's choice. So I get to decide where this, what gets lost or where that comes from. And hearts is the environment, separates Gun and Slinger. So an earthquake, a storm, whatever, something in the environment separates them. So it's a way to use, if you're stuck for an idea as a maestro, the cards in your hand are a tool to make things happen, to use as inspiration. You can also, and the other way I would also use them, it says here, as a maestro, you do not make pairs. Cards remain in your hand. Use the singles to make moves and mix up the current scene. As a maestro, you're mainly reacting. So basically, the regular cards, I would do the same thing. It doesn't quite specifically say that. Basically, let's say my hand is now these numbers. So if I want to introduce a regular, like not a highly difficult, something that is basically I use the card number as the difficulty of the check needed to beat it. So if I want to introduce with clubs, dealer's choice or whatever, so I want to introduce a low level antagonist that is coming in, I might play this 4 of clubs and use it sort of as an excuse to introduce this like low-level flunky that is blocking their way. And, you know, a check of 4 will convince them or whatever. Or I might play a 9 of diamonds. Diamonds is the twist. So maybe the thing, no, actually no, the thing that hunts is represented by the jacks, by the jokers. But let's say, you know, one of those fungus apes, or maybe a pack of them, come out from the woods and attack. So again, it's a tool for the maestro to use the cards in their hand to tell stories and generate story elements, you know, when they need to. So I do like that that's there. I don't think it's strictly necessary. I, in fact, almost never use it, but I like that it is a tool that is available to the GM. And then now we're talking a little bit about the thing. So the thing that hunts. Something connected to the twist hunts the duo. Again, it gives you a few details on that. Talks about the jokers and how to use them to use the thing that hunts in the game. And then after that, it's now we got some scenarios, some ideas, and just again some very simple overviews of places and things that might be in those places for your characters to explore. And finally, a few optional rules, like letting the gun shapeshift. So there is a way, if you want to make it so that the gun can turn into a sword or a key or a different gun, not a person. It's not shapeshifting into a person or a living animal, just into a different sort of weapon, like a gun or a tool of some kind. It's an optional rule that you can add. And here's a little note on Maestro Let's Play. I feel like maybe this example from all the way back here, going Maestro Let's, maybe would have been better used here, but whatever. And that draws to an end Gun and Slinger. We're going to look at the rest of this very quickly, but that actually draws to an end Gun and Slinger. I'm actually very proud that we got to the entire game in one stream. Look at us go. Holy shit. But yes, that is the game. I really enjoy this game. It's very much atmospheric. It's very much a storytelling game with a very unique system. And then in the vein of that same game, again, we're not going to go into detail on this, we're just going to look at them because I love the various concepts that people have made. So Adira Slattery designed The Demon, which is a version of this same system in which you're playing a demon and the demon stats, and where is it here? Actually, the person barely has a stat. I think the demon, the person itself uses a similar sheet to the Slinger, I think, in this one. So it's mostly just stats for the demon. I think the person might just be a normal person. So it is variations, but the demon gets different stats, different powers, and basically, without going into too much detail, you're basically sort of a genie. Almost more than a demon. It's like more of the traditional genie. Like the player makes a request of you. You can offer like, let me do this, let me do that. You can tempt them, but the player makes a request, and then once the player asks you to do the thing, then you are free to do the thing. It's kind of the vibe that we get, which is very, very interesting, very cool. And then there's Sword and Bearer, so Gun and Slinger, but more with a sword. It's created by Veditya Boletti. And this one is very much like, from what I've seen, I haven't looked at this one too closely, but it is kind of at a unique setting, a growing city, a living sword, and this sort of how can I it feels like a more not medieval, but like more self-contained version of Gun and Slinger, but it's sword and bearer, and you're more contained within a city. There's more to deal with the setting of the city itself and the wilderness around it. So again, different, just a slightly different setting. The twist exists, but there's a different kind of twist in the city that is changing the city itself, and in this case the sword is actually tied to the twist. So a different approach to the game, which I like. And then a little bit more detail on the bearer and their stats. And then there is Mech and Pilot, for which I love the art. This one's designed by Pam Punzalan, and it is, again, as you may guess, a Shinji and the Eva, and of course it is like an Eva. This is the armor itself is very much anime. They're bonded together, they are sentient, they can do all sorts of like crazy super events, they assimilate with one another. Very, very interesting approaches, and again, another one that I would love to play. All three variations of this game, honestly, I would love to play, in addition to having played Gun and Slinger. You're a biomechanical weapon with a forgotten purpose, while the pilot themselves, you're a land dweller whose life took an unprecedented turn as your soul synchronized with a mech. Will you choose survival or turn your eyes heavenward to self-styled gods' thrones, slaying gods? Like this looks like a hell of a good time, and I would also love to play it. And that covers the entire book. Look at that. Let me catch up on chat real quick. In my humble opinion, Jinn and genies are demons. I have a more controversial take on this, but I don't dare say it. No, fair, I get it. And honestly, like I said, look, they're different. They are different yet related mythologies and stuff like that. For what falls under one classification, under one mythology, is going to fall under a different one for another. There's always all sorts of different ways to interpret that. Like, again, and that's kind of what we see here, that from this core concept of Gun and Slinger, we have these three very different yet still very familiar variations on that same concept of, a bearer and a weapon, or a bearer and an object of power. So I really like that. I think all three alternate settings for this game look like a lot of fun, and I would love to run them. Maybe with the gang someday, we'll see. No promises, but they're definitely something I want to do. And this game is also one that I want to do a proper, like, not just me rambling kind of stream review on after I finally finish that Penumbra City one, which maybe I'll hopefully get to write it out over the weekend. But we made it, folks. We made it. We survived. I'm very proud of us. I'm just going to spread all these cards around because it's fun to do that. And just go ahead and switch back out to here as we start wrapping up the show for the day. Thank you, as always, folks, for hanging out with me for a little while. We got through our 3 hours, and we'll see if in the future I'm still trying to lock down what it's going to look like for me to stream. I'm also trying to set up some games that I can offer. Right now, I've only got a couple of games and start playing for the God Machine thing, and I want to be able. I mean, ideally, right, in an ideal world, what I need out of life right now is to be able to run 10 games a week. 10 3-hour game sessions a week. If I could do that, that's it. I'm making a living off of that. Anything else I get from streaming or YouTube or whatever is a bonus, absolute bonus, but nothing, but that would get me living. I'm nowhere near that. I have 2 games listed and 0 players, and it's probably going to take a very long time for games to fill up, but I know it's possible because I've met a few people already who in fact do that. And 8 to 10 games a week seems to be that sweet spot. And as crazy as that sounds, that's not that bad. It's 30 hours approximately of work per week. That's not crazy. That's doable. Through each of these streams is 3 hours. So like in theory, doable. Still something very much early working on though, but I'm trying. But my point with all this rambling is that I'm not sure what my final streaming schedule is going to be. Also, part of the reason that my streaming hours are limited is because I do have to kind of respect my housemates' hours. But that's also going to change later this year, so we'll see. There will be a point at which I'm going to be able to just have full flexibility in my hours, so that might change as well. But in the meantime, for now, we seem to be sticking with this 2 p.m. to 5 p.m., occasionally going all the way to 6 streams from Monday through Friday. Sorry, from Tuesday to Friday. Mondays I take those off because I do have some sort of back-end work that I need to do, and I take those days for that. But Tuesday through Friday, afternoon streams. Weekends, usually Saturdays I do record for Fandibles, so that's going to take over, and then Sundays I do like to rest. So again, that's why I'm not promising too many streams. But this weekend specifically, I think I might be playing Shadows of Doubt. We'll see how that goes. And let's see, I mean, 4 hours each, if you're running the game, same-ish plots, that's manageable away from the table. Well, I mean, yes. First of all, I have to get used to running these shorter sessions. I do instinctively tend to run 4-hour sessions. Part of the reason of doing these streams for 3 hours is to kind of get that timing on, because 3 hours seems to be what most people on the site that I'm using are looking for. And the big advantage, that some people have is that they're running D&D. So a lot of them are running modules. They're running, Curse of Strahd. They're running Lost Mines of Phandelver, stuff like that. So, they're just running the same modules over and over and over. So easy for them. Meanwhile, I'm here trying to run perfectly crafted original stories for everybody. Except I'm not. The God Machine stuff is still presented in part. It is a story path that I am adapting. So, but yeah, it is a challenge. It is a challenge, to be fair. Squints in 5+ hours. I mean, yes, exactly. It is. Look, that's part of, again, getting used to this. When I ran TTRPG for a few folks on the Fandible Discord recently, those sessions definitely went up to the full 4 hours, and sometimes felt like they could have gone longer. So that is practice. But in terms of what people are expecting on the site, the average expectation seems to be $20 gets you a 3-hour session. I can do that. I can deliver that for a group, no problem. I can deliver that for 10 groups a week, sure. I think so. Thanks for wishing me luck with my endeavors, Freitas. I need whatever luck I can get. Because here's the thing, I know this is possible because I've met people. I've talked to people on the forums, on the Start Playing Games forums, and they're like, this is my job. This is what I do. I run about 8 to 10 games a week. This is what I charge. All the games are listed on the site. They're not hiding anything, and they're not all D&D. Some of these people that are making a full living playing, running these many games a week and just making a living off of this, they usually have at least one D&D game going, but they also have just games in different systems. So it is possible. You don't have to be doing D&D. D&D is just as I keep saying, the 800,000-pound dragon in the room. But I think I'm kind of doing this in hard mode by not doing D&D. But I think it's going to be worth it. And in the meantime, like I said, I'll keep doing these videos, keep talking up the indie games, and see if that inspires people. Any other content besides just D&D content for all us tabletop RPG nerds, I'm trying to provide. So we'll see how that goes. But with all that said, we're about to hit 3 hours, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap up. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I hope you enjoyed Gun Slinger and our little review by Nevin Holmes. Look it up online. You can find it, I believe, find more games by the author at https let me just put the camera real quick just so you can see that. www.nevin.games. Go ahead and check out the rest of Nevin's stuff as well as Gun and Slinger. Big fan of it. And I will be back probably tomorrow, not as usual, but just tomorrow. Looks like playing Shadows of Doubt. And definitely back next Tuesday with the next game that we're going to be looking at, which is not Penumbra City again. You know what? Here. one of these two. One of these two. It's either going to be Ark or Here There Be Monsters. Ark, I've already read once and liked. Here There Be Monsters, I've been meaning to read forever. Either way, probably next week is going to be these two games. I suspect that neither one of them am I going to be able to get through them in a single stream, because I have a lot to say. I know I have a lot to say on Ark, and I suspect I'm going to have a lot to say on Here Be Monsters. So probably those two are going to be what we're going to be doing next week. So look forward to that. Thanks so much for hanging out, folks, and I will see you next Tuesday. Spell that out. Bye, folks.